Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Welcome, everybody, to Spaced Out Radio. It's not really after hours, but it's the after hours edition because I'm filling in for Dave Scott tonight, who's feeling under the weather, as you may have seen in the chat. We're going to have an awesome show tonight. We have our guest tonight, Michael Osadona, who's an experiencer, researcher, heads tours out in Sedona as well. We're going to be jumping down a rabbit hole tonight. It's going to be really awesome for hours 1 and 2. And then hours 3, we're going to get UFO Tim James with the UFO report and also some Steve Stockton. So can't wait for that, guys. We're going to have an awesome show. Let's see who came in first tonight. I did get the memo from Race Fan, and according to the memo, it's going to be Ann B with the gold tonight, Race Fan with the silver, and then to Mothman with the bronze. Let's go ahead and see who else has come on in here tonight. There's Ann B, there's Race Fan, there is Mothman, there is SJ, there's Captain K-Rod, Michael's Neat AF. I met him a few times. That's awesome. We got Robert Lamoth Jr. in the building. We got Kitty Catty Whack. We got Abbott Hoffman. We got Browndorf in the building. Eternity Eternal. Let's see. Matt Carter is in the building. Steph, not that Steph. Don't side-eye me. Blankenship is here as well saying, hey, guys. We got Andrew in Gnomes Trucking. Hey, Andrew, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you. Melvin WD40. What is he doing? Lubing us up. He got the can right there in his hand. Getting us ready for the show. You already know. Still lubing up everyone so it's smooth tonight. Okay, I like that. But he's going to bed early. Well, we watch what you can, and then you can always hop in the archives anytime. Lead the Bee, thanks for coming in. Glenn McEnroe, thanks for coming in. Flat 6 is here. UFO Tim James in the back. We got Carl Bittner. We got Pat Noble. We got Lars Jansen. We got T-Bone. We got Digger Dog is in the building. Yes, Digger Dog is here. Aaron Baca. I'm getting at you soon, Aaron Baca. We're going to link that up really soon. Thanks for coming in. We got Jay Trueseeker. Jay Trueseeker is here. Let's see. S. Vermet is here. Miss Mary, thanks for coming on in. Bobby Younce, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you. Al Garay, thanks for showing up. Joe Monk, appreciate you coming in. And I think we are pretty much current. I'm gonna miss somebody I know. Don't mean to. Kurt M is here. Resonant is here. Political foolishness is here. As we get ready to start the podcast side of this, and let's get that going. All right, welcome to everyone on our podcast side. My name is Mr. Rob G, filling in for Dave Scott tonight. We're going to have an awesome show. We have Michael Osadona coming in talking about experiences, contact, things we see in the sky, and a bunch of other things we're going to be getting into tonight. So you make sure you don't go anywhere. You stay right here. It is definitely going down hours 1 and 2, and then hour 3, UFO Tim James and Steve Stockton. Let's go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and we're broadcasting tonight on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Remember, you can access our archives for absolutely free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And hey, while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio, at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire. You can get some official Spaced Out swag, plus you can rock out to that guy right there, Mr. Bumblefoot, and oh so much more. Like I said, we're going to have an awesome show tonight. We have Michael Osadona joining us from, I assume, Sedona, Arizona. You know, we have friends from that area as well. We are definitely going to have a great time with them for hours 1 and 2. And then we have for hour 3, Steve Stockton coming in with Missing Persons Mysteries. And we have Tim James. I call him UFO Tim James because he's coming with that UFO report, and he does it so well each and every night. So we do appreciate him coming in as well. Let's go ahead and jump into the show here. We have none other than, let me switch some things up to set the stage for our guest tonight. Get the proper itinerary up here, and here we go. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest, Michael Osadona. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine. Yes, sir, I definitely can. And I'm so glad to be stepping in for Dave Scott here tonight and getting the chance to meet you. Like this wouldn't have happened had stars not aligned. So I'm so glad that I was able to sit here and have this conversation with you tonight, sir.
Speaking of stars aligning, I was on my UFO tour. I do a nightly UFO tour here in Sedona. And with the moon down for the tour, it was just the most amazing sky. We got Jupiter and Saturn and Venus up all within the hour and a half that we're out doing the tour. And we probably saw 150 spacecraft in an hour, along with satellites and airplanes. It was really, really a great night. Perfect temperature, like 76 degrees here in Sedona. It was absolutely beautiful.
And that's 76 degrees Fahrenheit, guys, because we are here in the United States. We don't do the Celsius thing like our fellow Canadian friend Dave Scott. But yeah, Arizona, just kind of starting out off of that. Arizona, you know, I've been through the state. I've been through Nevada as well. Wide open skies, just a place you would want to be if you're going to go out and try to see something. Nothing to obstruct the view. Beautiful place. Now, before we jump into all of that, I definitely want to start the interview like we always do, just kind of figuring out, you know, what brought you even into being, you know, focusing on the skies. Did you have any experiences while young? What drew you into the phenomenon?
Well, it was before I was even conscious of what everything was that was going on. I was 2 years old, living in a babysitter's playpen in San Diego, California in 1960, when I was gifted basically all mathematics through analytical geometry. So everything this side of derivative calculus, I was just given the knowledge. and I didn't, of course, know where it came from. I didn't even find out that the other kids didn't have it until I was 4 and went into kindergarten, when I'd already memorized my multiplication tables through 12s, and none of the other kids had a clue mathematically. And so that's when that was when I knew I had to become a teacher.
Right.
So I've been, teaching, helping people catch up ever since. I was gifted the math at 2, and then at 7.5, I was in Glendale, California in '66. I was in 3rd grade, and I woke up from a dream. And in that dream, I was given a couple of billion years of the history of our solar system from the celestial level. So in the dream, I was given the fact that Venus was not part of our solar system, that Earth didn't originally have a moon, that there was a planet called Tiamat between Earth and Jupiter. It was about 3 times the size of Earth, and its moon was Mars. Saturn was on the outer edge of the solar system, and Uranus was actually inside of Saturn. They've swapped orbits. And Uranus got knocked on its side in the process. There's no such thing as a Big Bang. There's no such thing as an electron, a particle electron. It doesn't exist. So these kind of things I was kind of gifted in this dream in 1966. Now, almost everything that I've just said has basically been proven, and there's European science, peer-reviewed science reports talking about all these things. But in '66, this was wacky kid stuff. My teachers didn't believe me. Adults didn't want to believe me, but those that knew me knew that I was probably right, but it wouldn't be proven for 10 or 20 years. That's just basically the way I work. I come out with things 5 to 20 years ahead of time. Yeah. And it's the same way with my music, same way with my shows. It's like, my news shows, everything. I talk about stuff on my tours. I was talking about World War IV 5 years ago on the tour, warning everybody, and now here we are. So it's it's a weird thing.
It is, and I'm under the belief, as I've told people many times before, that some people get unlocked early, or they, I consider, I don't know if I consider myself as far as unlocked, but I will say that it appears that creatives, right? You stated you do music. I'm also a musician as well. Been that way for a young age. I picked up first instrument like 9 years old. So on that note, being able, when I try to explain things to people, like seeing music, like seeing music, right?
Exactly. And everybody always wants me on the mixing board because I see the music and I know where the gaps are. I've never heard anybody else ever say it that way, but Rob, you're buddy.
That's what I mean. And I'm explaining that in a way that, because when it's whatever that is that allows us to do that, it's the same way when you look over at the phenomena. Like, if you're unlocked, there are just certain ways and certain things you can see that other people aren't privy to yet, or haven't been exposed to yet. So with that being said, I thought it was interesting, musician to musician.
I've got some great music. I've got a Constitution rock band.
Okay. Yeah.
It's called Terranomaly. And I've got some songs, like I wrote the theme song for Q, Where We Go When We Go All. Wow. I've got Fake News, Shadow Band, Great Awakening, all these songs off the latest album. And the first album has Don't Come For My Gun and I Won't Shoot You, Enough Is Enough, Last Man Standing, all kinds of great tunes on that one too. You might want some bumper music, and I'll let you use it for no price.
Well, you guys heard it right here. I'll be sifting through that catalog and definitely doing that, because I have some things set up already for bumper music, but I would love to have the direct artist permission to do something like that. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, we're on Spotify. You check it out. You want a copy, I'll send you a direct wave or whatever you need.
Okay, let me figure this out real quick. Okay. Yeah, we may be having a little interference on your end. I don't know if you have something.
Was I moving around too much?
Yeah,
Check.
yeah, we'll work through it. It just started, but with that being said, yeah. So getting into this, so early on, you had experiences, which for some people like myself, truthfully, I just had experiences. Started having these within the last 2 to 3 years. So I didn't have that. Even though growing up as a kid, I looked at science fiction as being something that was totally possible, aliens being out there. I never saw a reason why it couldn't be the case. Now, you stated that you received downloads, and I wanted to kind of get into that because when skeptics look at this, and obviously we have to include them in the conversation, they'll want to know, okay, how are you able to differentiate an experience like that from potentially something like a dream, and what is it that you would say to that?
Well, from the download, whether it was a dream,
Okay,
whether it was a contact from ET, I got the math. I was proving the math.
Oh, right there, Michael.
Okay.
Because the buzzing is, we can't even hear you. Let's see. Try see if you can do anything, and if not, try to maybe hop out and hop back in.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, you get gremlins, guys, every now and then when it comes to live streaming. That's just the nature of the business here, and we are going to be okay. We're going to get through it here. Kurt M, solar flares are messing up your mic. It could be. You never know.
Let's see if this works. Are we back on?
You're sounding great now. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting. I'll have to remember that and look at the time. It looks like it was about a 10-minute thing. So we'll see if that happens again after 10 minutes, and I'll know. Exactly. I've got a funky camera microphone.
Okay,
I tried to switch over to a different mic, but it didn't take. So.
Okay, you're good now. You were in the middle of saying something. I don't know if you were able to pick that back up.
Well, I'm not sure how much was distorted, but if you want to argue was the information valid, I had the math. There's no doubt about it. I was demonstrating it. There's no way a 2-year-old can have that.
Right.
I was explaining to teachers in 3rd grade these things that I described to you from the dream. Whether it was a dream or whether it was an ET contact, I was still given the information, which didn't exist in the public domain at the time.
Exactly.
At least not in any kind of mainstream distribution. So I would say that those are moot. But I did my final, my crux, my pièce de résistance was in 2001 in July, when I met 3 8-foot extraterrestrials face to face while being awake in my house. So that one we can argue, I suppose, whether it was a dream or not a dream. You still hearing me good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So it was July of 2001, 2 months before 9/11, right? And I was in my California King waterbed, sound asleep in the middle of the night with my lovely wife. And suddenly I am awakening in the middle of the night, which didn't happen when I was 42. I'm 65 now. It happens every night, but at 42 it didn't. So I was awakened in the middle of the night, which was already an unusual thing. Then I started feeling like I had the spins, like I was moving, but I wasn't moving me. And then I heard come out of my wife, which is a very strange sound. And then I found out later that she was numbed, and that's why that sound came out. She couldn't move her eyes, her mouth, her tongue, nothing. That's the only sound she could make. She was trying to say Michael, but that's how it came out. And then I found myself actually floating out of the bed. So I was being levitated out of the bed, around the corner of the bed, and into the hallway while in a horizontal position. Now my bed is about 2.5 feet off the ground. It's got 2 sets of drawers underneath the waterbed, so it's pretty high. And I'm floating like, 3 feet off the ground, going into the hallway, horizontal. And then as I was going down the hallway, they rotated me till I was vertical, and then put my feet on the ground at the end of the hallway. It's at that point I had to make the decision of fight or flight, right? I mean, isn't that what you do?
Oh, yeah.
Well, my wife and my son are in the house, and I'm not going to run away. Never have, never will. So I knew I had to turn into the kitchen and meet the ETs. I knew they were in there. I could sense them, and so I prepared myself to go into the room in a hurry and prepare mental battle with what I thought was going to be, a handful of those 3.5 foot gray programmable biological entities, which is basically they're the IBM XT computer of the spacefaring species. And that's what I was expecting to see when I turned the corner. And when I did, and I looked at the right height at 3 feet high, I saw legs, long legs, and the clock on the microwave said 3:05, so I knew what time it was. So I had to tip my head back to see the beings themselves. They were 8 foot tall, 3 of them in my kitchen, no hair, bumps on their heads, sinuous bodies, can't tell male or female, eyes that were about 35% larger than mine, blue, nose half the size of mine, mouth half the size of mine, no ears projecting that I could see. Their the cranial area came out a little bit, bulged out a little bit, and they were staring down at me. Now I'm 6'1". I usually stare down at the other people, but in this case, I was a shorty and they were staring down at me. And when I came in, I figured that they were there to pull classified information out of my head because, look, it's all about me, right? Especially at 3 in the morning. You get me up out of bed. It's got to be about me. Well, I was wrong. But that's what I thought was happening. So I'm ready to put on this telepathic bulldog defense fight against these things. And then I found out that they were there to give me information. So after blanking my mind and having me stand there looking stupid like Joe Biden or Mitch McConnell, all of a sudden I could, communicate. I realized I could communicate with them. So it was a combination of like a rebus puzzles and a video stream. Now I'm a video producer, so I see the world at 30 frames a second. It really wasn't a big jump, I guess, for me to figure that out, but I did. So they communicated to me when I was doing a power ask, who are you, where are you from? That's when you ask, who are you from, who are you from, who are you from? Okay. I was as fast as I could send the data. I was, because I was trying to send so much data to them that they couldn't take over my head. That was my goal. I wanted to remain in control of me.
Let me ask you, because the way they're being described, they don't sound like the Greys, right? The Greys are usually the ones that people say are doing the abducting. The description didn't sound like that. What were these things?
I wasn't abducted. I was given an invitation and I wasn't allowed to decline. So these were beings from the Crux constellation. So I found that out when I asked who they were and where they were from. One of them made this display device appear, a real vertical, tall, fairly narrow display device that appeared, and it showed me the Southern Cross. Now, for those of you who have never been below the equator, the Southern Cross is to everyone below the equator what the Big Dipper is to those of us above the equator. Okay, you can always see it. So I wanted to find out, obviously the next question is, what, folks, which star are you from? Right? Isn't that what you would think?
Yeah.
So I was ready. I figured out how to communicate with them, and I was ready to do it. And when I looked back up, and I was excited, and I looked into their eyes. And don't look into ET's eyes, people. If you ever get a chance to meet ET face to face, don't look in their eyes. They'll hypnotize you instantly. You can't do squat. So I was forgetful of that primary lesson that I was taught a long time ago. Looked into their eyes, and when I did, they numbed me. And the three of them locked in with my forehead. So there was a triangle that went from their eyes to my forehead. And in that triangle, there was all this light that appeared and started downloading into my forehead. Shapes, colors, magentas and purples that I've never seen before. All kinds of colors and shapes and squiggles and corkscrews and all kinds of things were just going into my head. like the last scene of 2001: A Space Odyssey played at 4 times speed.
Wow.
And at the end of it, I didn't have any information as to what was actually put in my head. I didn't have any comprehension, as it were. So I was asking some fairly rudimentary questions at that point about Earth's history and things like that, which they showed me a big chunk of the answer of my question, which is why laboratory Earth. And they showed me a big chunk of the dream that I had when I was 7 years old. So I knew that these beings were the same beings that gave me the dream when I was 7, and therefore I derived that they're the same beings that gave me the math when I was 2. Now, Rob, the fact that you're saying that you have maybe been in contact for the last couple of years, about the only way that can really happen is if your mother or your grandmother or something like that was first taken by them.
I've thought about that, and I've asked my mother that, and she can't recall anything specifically, but she feels like it could be plausible, and I have to talk to her more about that, maybe, because I plan on getting regressed, right? So, maybe that's something that I could do with her as well, to kind of open that up, because I think if there was anyone in my line, in my family line, it's definitely her. She's the one that's most open to this type of thing happening. So,
well, there really hasn't been any new blood, let's say, in the last 10, 15 years. It's downline of old blood. So if your grandmother or your mother were taken and you were sampled, that wouldn't be new blood. That would be old blood, because you're in a bloodline they already have. And they do that to find out how changes, because they'll instigate small changes into let's use the word patient for lack of a better term.
Let's all right there, Mike. We're getting ready to come up on a break in about 15 seconds here, so we'll continue this on the other side of the break. Everybody kick back, don't go anywhere. We are going to go deep again tonight here with Michael Osadona, talking about these ETs. I've never heard of this species, but I'm totally intrigued and I have some questions. You guys get your questions ready too as we come back right here at Spaced Out Radio. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Clear. So yeah, we got 5 minutes here but we come back from break. Everyone here in YouTube land can still see and hear us.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? So I shouldn't say smoke them if you got them?
Exactly. No, really, but I'm getting to yeah, and it's always hard right now because I want to continue talking to you about this, but we have to save it for radio. So, how have you been? Let's just do that. How have you been? What's been up lately?
Oh crap. I don't know if you know my backstory. 2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, metastasized throughout my bones.
Wow.
Had a PSA of 706. Supposed to be 2.
Wow.
They told me to get my affairs in order. I wasn't going to be around much longer. 7 months later, I had that PSA down to 2.3, and walking and getting around and doing everything like I was doing before, pretty much.
Awesome.
Got my weight back. And then I was speaking at Contact in the Desert in June, and I got attacked by Satan. So I had a 14-day battle with Satan, where I was actually pulled to the other side.
Wow.
And was battling for my life. And lost about 23 pounds in 3 days. It was tough. But you don't walk away from a battle with Satan unscathed, I tell you. But I'm back. I'm almost back to my martial arts fighting weight. In just another month, of recovery. By the way, when I got attacked by the devil, my PSA went to 3,240.
Jesus.
Now 7 is cancer, right? 3 weeks later, I had it down to 1.6.
Wow.
With God's help. I mean, I had to call out to God for help. Got God's help. Got rid of the demon, which a shadow being went across the wall of my living room. I saw it when it left. On its way out of the house, it shut off one of our freezers, which you can't do with a vacuum or a closet door, or you got to have fingers into this plastic shield and turn it to off. And it was turned off.
Wow.
About 4 hours later, my wife just happened to walk through the room where the freezers are and saw that one of them was off and looked down and turned the knob back. And then she talked to me, and I said, well, there's only one being I know that could have done that.
Jeez. Wow. Well, we're sitting in healing energies, man. I didn't know. Yeah, keep up the good fight.
Oh boy, this is going on everywhere. We're in World War IV right now, and World War IV is the war of good versus evil. We're in the middle of it right here on planet Earth.
I believe it.
I'll only go there if you want me to, but
No, we could definitely go there. I mean, I like touching topics that get you thinking, man. So that's yeah, we could definitely do.
All good.
As long as we don't get political, so we can stay out of politics. Yeah. I'm totally down to touch that for sure.
All good.
But yeah, I'm glad you're feeling better, man.
Well, I'm the reincarnation of Ben Franklin, so I'm a little political by nature in that I'm a constitutionalist.
There we go.
That's it. I don't play the other parties. I'm a constitutionalist.
I love the Constitution as well, definitely.
Well, then you're going to love Terranomaly's music, dude. How do you feel about classic rock?
I do. I love all genres of music. You see, I got my Led Zeppelin up here.
All right. Well, I saw that. Well, there's only one band out there that really does classic rock and Constitution together, and that's Terranomaly. We got 2 albums. Check us out on Spotify, YouTube, whatever. It's everything from soft ballads to rage. So
we'll have to include that in the description here. I don't know if it was in your bio, but if not, and you're starting to get staticky again.
All right, let me see let me break it up and find out what's up.
Okay.
All right. Check 1, 2.
Yep, sounding better again.
Okay.
All right.
It's a 3-step process to clear it up. So just let me know when it starts happening again.
Yeah,
and then
I'll give you like a finger motion if it's during the show.
Okay.
We got about 20 seconds here.
Oh, if I showed you my CV, Rob, you wouldn't believe it.
Ah, man, I'm totally into me. Look, I have a guitar sitting right behind me over here that I'm learning to play. What is this in the screen? That's what's in the screen here.
Check out element115theband.com. We opened for Alan Parsons and War in 2007.
I'm going to bring that up too as well. All right, welcome everybody back to Spaced Out Radio. After hour 0.5, I guess. Yeah, we're getting back into it with Michael Osadona here, talking about ET contact experience and sometimes people being targeted. You guys out there are all space travelers. Consider taking the next step and join the club. That's right. You can join our SOR Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 per month by joining our Patreon. Please consider doing that as we go ahead and get back into the conversation here, Mike. So you were kind of outlining, contact and then talking about previous contact down your bloodline and stating old blood and things of that nature. Because I wanted to ask you something about that. I feel like, from talking to so many people, that it definitely seems like for whatever reason, and maybe you can give an explanation why, certain people have recurring contact experiences like yourself from being a child and then growing up. And then you have put it together that you feel like these are all the same entities coming back to you. If you kind of want to go down that path, because I have some things that I want to bring up as well.
Sure. Well, we kind of touched on, maybe off camera, was it? There really aren't a lot of new blood abductions. Okay. There are some new people that get abducted, but it's because they're the downline of parents or grandparents or great-grandparents who were first abducted, and that's the bloodline that was studied. So occasionally, let's say that they made a very small alteration to your grandmother, and then they want to see how that affects your DNA 2 generations later. So they bring you in for an examination. They're really curious about our genetics, Rob. We are a unique species, even though life is everywhere, and there's humans all over the galaxy. This particular species here on Earth, our DNA last time it was or the time before last that it was manipulated, really. Enki joined the 2nd and 3rd chromosome together. So gorillas, they have 24 pairs of chromosomes. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Wouldn't you think that humans would have more than gorillas? Well, it doesn't work that way. When Enki combined the 2nd and 3rd chromosome of this species, it gave us a direct link to the creator, the 11th dimensional creator, God, being, whatever you want to call it. So we have the ability, that therefore, to use the power of God. It's just a very small amount. We are fractal iterations. The light that's within us, not these meat suits, they're just meat suits, but the light that's within us, the energy that's within us, okay, is a fractal iteration of Creator itself. And the reason it can be housed here is because the DNA was manipulated to house it. And what we are here on Earth to do is to collect experiences and knowledge and perspectives. And then when the meat suit quits, all that stuff goes back to the collective. Because here's the thing. The Creator is pure math. It can only do logic and follow logic tables. So when we humans experience something through a shroud of emotions, we don't see reality. We see a version, an interpretation of reality. And we keep that as if it's reality in our memories. So when those go to the collective, there's no way any of that could be predicted, because first of all, it didn't happen that way.
Can you?
Ask any investigator that sees a traffic accident. You know, you can interview 10 people that saw the accident. They all had 10 different stories. But
Can
only
you?
one thing happened. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you if you can give an example of one of those realities. I think you're actually doing that now, but if you could, for the audience, give an example of one of those things that are perceived as a reality that really.
Yeah, sure. I'll give a great big one. There's probably still a lot of people out there that think that airplanes flew into the World Trade Center towers. There were no airplanes that flew into the World Trade Center towers. That was 3D animation shown to you over and over. And the reason I know that is because, number one, I'm a pilot. Number two, I'm a physicist. I happen to know that you can't fly a heavy at 550 knots at 1,000 feet above ground level. The wing will fall off. Okay, you can't do it. Those planes fly at 500 knots at 30,000 feet where there's almost no air, very little resistance. Okay, so that's just one of the things. And then the fact that they showed planes that they just went right through the building. Those planes are made of soft aluminum. If I do a nice wheel kick on the nose of a 757, I'm going to crack it because it's fiberglass. It's a radome that hides a radar dish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the whole aluminum fuselage expands about 3/4 of an inch once it gets up at altitude. It's soft. So when something that's a soft aluminum tube is going to hit a steel and concrete and steel reinforced floors and steel walls on those buildings, it's not going to go just right through it. It's going to, due to differentiation of metals, okay, so with use a little bit of physics, it's going to go like this. It's going to crumple. And that tail section that's back there is going to just kind of get close, and it's going to fall down the building, and then you'll see a tail section. There's never been a plane crash in the history since the Wright brothers. Hear me now and understand me Tuesday. There's never been a plane crash that didn't have a tail section left behind. And yet that day there was 4 of them. Please. Plus, I've got the video of the missile hitting the Pentagon. There was no plane. They hit the Pentagon. It's like, so those are some of the things that, you know, people assume is true because it's been planted into their heads through mind control. That's just not true. So when they die and they take in, you know, Arabs flew planes into our buildings and they take that back to the collective as fact, the collective gets to learn that, but it wasn't fact. And the collective, I'm sure, gets a chuckle out of it, that we're so gullible that we believe things like that, or flat earth, or Nasara, or whatever. I mean, those are all E-ring, Pentagon E-ring. Okay, first of all, did you guys get my background? Like, I had top secret clearance. Okay, I was part of military think tanks. The Pentagon E-ring spends a lot of time coming up with stories just to see how far they'll go, just to see how gullible people are. And flat earth was one of them. And it's amazing how many people ran with that. That's not political, is it? Okay, I hope not.
No, you're good there. I just want to know, so, okay, if that's exactly as you say, then what, taking it back to the collective, what is the response to that, or what is the effect of that, rather, I guess?
So going back to the collective?
Yeah, taking that information that you described back to the collective. Now, what does that end up doing, or how does that affect?
So that allows God to grow. Okay. All right. Because if you know everything, and if you've done everything, you know everything, you know the end of everything, and you know you're everywhere, you're everything. I would ask you, Rob, how do you grow? And one of the definitions of life is growth. And we all want to admit that God is alive. So how's it going to grow? Well, it's brilliant enough to invent infinitesimal versions of itself. That's the spark of life in the human body. And with this a particular DNA combination of the human, the way we are here, with 2 and 3 twisted together, it gives us the ability to communicate and the ability to hold for later transfer everything that we perceive as real. I imagine that even the dreams that we perceived, they're so strong that we couldn't forget them for the rest of our lives. If we had a dream like that, that would get dumped as well. Even though the purpose of dreams is to dump data out of your brain.
Yeah, there's this fine line there. There's a fine line because I've had dreams and I have had things that I felt was so real. Then I have had things that went past feeling real, and I'm like, this has to be real. Like there is no other explanation for it. It's kind of like what you're describing, but it also seems like, you know, some that may not be able to differentiate between, say, a dream and then maybe something like an astral traveling to somewhere, or your consciousness moving to somewhere. Like it's hard for a lot of people to differentiate. Do you think that's on purpose? Do you think that those two things are so the same that it's to make you second guess maybe experiences that you had?
Well, I think that the lucid dreaming and that is training wheels for astral travel. So I started leaving my body at 12, and at 13, I figured out how to go down and walk into someone's house out of my body at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night when my body's in my bed at home, and fly through my roof, go down the streets, and I would go down the streets as if I was riding my bike, because I wasn't a pilot yet. I wasn't, driving yet. And so my way of getting places was bike. So I would go over the streets and then drop down and then go through their front door, walk through their house, see everything that they had. And then once in a while would be somebody from school, and I would tell them at school, I went into your house. Here's what you have. No, you didn't. Yeah, I did. Here, what? Okay, look, over your hutch in a living room, there's a picture of your grandma. Her name is Vanita. It's like, how are you going to know that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it would scare some people, and it would intrigue others. But those were kind of ego exercises kind of thing. But I was very young, so I forgive myself for that kind of stuff. It gave me the building blocks, though, to at 15 leave so far out of our solar system that I could not determine this star from another star.
Okay.
Earth is incredibly round, by the way. It's not flat.
No.
I've seen it.
Yes.
How's my audio doing?
You're doing good. You're going,
Okay.
yeah. And I'm with you. I don't feel like Earth is a flat place.
Yeah, it's
Those
amazing.
are
It's
just one of those
freakishly round. It's freakishly, when you see it from like 10,000, 20,000 miles out, it's freakishly round. And then when you start going out away from the solar system, away and away and away and away, and our star gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, it's heart jumping.
Let me ask you this. So the ETs that you have contact with, and getting back to the them targeting certain individuals, and you've described it's to maybe see genetics that and how those things have altered over a couple generations. That I could definitely see that. I could see that, but there's supposed to be so many other species that are visiting us. I don't know if every species is doing the same thing when it comes to contacting us. Let me ask you this, because you don't describe your encounters as abductions, because I guess you weren't taken anywhere, but you were given information. What do you think the purpose of giving that information is? Do you think it's for you to utilize that within your own life, or do you feel like it's for you to spread the word, essentially, of things that you are being told?
Well, that's pretty insightful right there, Rob. Let me put it this way. You've heard of the Mormons. Mormons knock on your door, there's 2 of them. But there's a whole lot more Mormons. Okay? Okay. So that's kind of what it was for my kitchen. There was 3 beings in my kitchen. They were on a mission with a whole lot of other ones from multiple species, as I understand. They contacted 1 million humans on Earth between 2000 and 2002. 1 million humans were contacted. And our job was to tell stuff to 7,000 people. So if each of us would have told the stuff, I'll just call it that for now, the stuff, to 7,000 people, then the entire planet would know the stuff. And then there would be no more wars, and there would be no more fighting and arguing. We would all be working together to bust open the doors that are stopping the new technologies from helping us, all that stuff. All of it would be open.
Okay.
But here's the problem, Rob. We have ETs that don't understand human nature, at least Earth human nature. Earth humans are different than other humans. So there was an equation called the Drake equation. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the Drake equation started with a number of stars and a number of planets and a number of those planets that had life and a number of those life that formed intelligent life, and eventually it worked out to the number of civilizations that had radio ability, to broadcast a radio signal. And Drake's final answer was 200,000, just in our galaxy alone, have that ability. Okay, well, I made a parody of that, because that's just what I do, called Michael's equation. So here it is. We start off with 1 million people, right? 1 million people between 2000 and 2002 were contacted by these beings' mission and given the downloads and information that I was given. But I guess let's start with 1 out of 10, I figured, would actually tell anybody that this happened to them. And I even asked people on my tours, and people on my tours are generally more open to the whole ET and UFO stuff. That's why they're on my tour, right? But even there, it's not much greater than 1 out of 10 would tell their parents and jeopardize their inheritance, or tell their boss and jeopardize. Hang on just a second. Go ahead and.
Yes. And we'll get into some more of this actually, because I want to ask Michael this question. Yeah, once you go ahead and finish, you can jump back into that here when you come back on. Getting very interesting here, guys. The perspective, as you know, we had a guest on a couple of days ago, and we had some awesome perspective on Saturday as well. So I definitely will want to ask Michael about that. Yeah, you can go ahead and finish, Mike.
Okay, so 1 out of 10 people would actually go full on and start telling everybody what they're supposed to tell. The rest would be too afraid to talk about meeting ET face to face, right? I mean, so many people I talked to that, no, I would never tell anybody that happened. So now we're down to 100,000. And now you have to have a really good grasp of language skills to be able to take the information that they gave, be able to use it to dive into the stream to get any information, any answer to any question, bring it back, translate it back into an English from a video stream back into language, and talk to people with their answers. It takes a skilled language person to do that. Not too many people have that level of language skills anymore. In fact, I would say, you probably 1 out of 10 is going to be able to have that level of language skills to be able to answer any question on any topic all the time, anywhere. So now we're down to 10,000 people. Now, the greatest fear of adults, Rob, is public speaking. Yeah. Okay? So since the greatest fear is public speaking, I'm going to say that only 1 out of 10 is going to go on a stage with 2,000 people and do what I do. or come on some of the biggest podcasts in the country and just talk to anybody and everybody, and then no matter what question it is, come up with the answer and be able to not have any fear, about talking to anybody, any group. Okay, so now we're down to 1,000 because only 1 out of 10 has that skill. Now, how many can go on Contact in the Desert or George Norrie and UFO MegaCon, and how many people have the connections to speak at all these conferences and have that kind of level of exposure? Have your own tours, that kind of thing. Maybe again, 1 out of 10. So now we're down to 100 people. And that, Rob, is why they failed, because they don't understand human nature. So 100 of us are around. Now 7,000, 7,000 times 100 is 700,000. That doesn't get 7 and now 8 billion people to get the information, does it? So that's why we've fallen behind, and we really need to pick up on that. And I'm really grateful for opportunities like this, so that people can get the information. And what is the information? Oh, it's really big and it's really wide. But you can ask, and I'll make sure I give my email out to you later before the end of the show, so you can ask me questions directly, and we can also do it through the chat right here. Although I can't join the chat because yet it wants your YouTube account, and I don't have a YouTube account per se that's related to this. So
I have your email. We're good.
Yeah, so you can, we can talk during this, and then you can have my email and ask me questions, and I'll get the answers to you. Basically, though, it's about doing for others, and collecting the good feelings and the good deeds, and taking that back. That's really that's the big picture we're supposed to do. It has nothing to do with, collecting the most the Gibson guitars, although I've tried. It doesn't count, having the most airplanes, although I'm a pilot, but I can't afford to buy a plane. It's not about any of that stuff. It's just about doing for others, so that more good information, more positive feelings are being transferred back than negative. Because when someone's in a pit and they commit suicide or whatever, that goes back too.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have the object for all of us is to put smiles on other people's faces, do things for them, take a little of your time, a little of your money, just a little of something, help other people, and then as you go through your day, just look for opportunities to help other people, and that's what brings a better collective, and I think more positive reincarnations of people here on Earth. I think that probably the more negative it's sent up there, the more negative people are brought down here to be born and cause problems once they're adults.
That's an interesting way to look at that. And yeah, I mean, I agree. And I'll tell you what, the positive part of that, the positive energy, that can be done, without having contact at all or having any ET enlightenment at all. It really starts within yourself and being able to, spread that out. Because I've said this before right here on this show, that just as well as negative energy you can be a conduit for that, and you can pass that on, and it multiplies throughout the planet. Is the same way positive energy does. And if that's all you put out there, if that's all everyone put out there, it would literally get to a point that I consider that one of our superpowers, and one of the reasons why we're so special. But I do want to get some perspective for you as we're going to go to break right now. But about the alien intent, because we spoke about this over the weekend. So with that being said, everybody kick back. We're going to get ready to go into our break at the top of the hour right here. We'll be back with Michael Osadona right here on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, and we're off camera for 5 minutes. Mike, see you in a minute.
I just reset the audio.
Okay. everyone. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2, as it says there on the screen. We will be coming back from our radio break here in about 30 seconds here. And so you have this collection set up here. We'll show these, Mike, at the...
I only put that up because you got all kinds of people in the comments talking about Gibsons and Fenders and stuff. This is my Gibson collection.
All right. We'll show that in the next break. We're coming back on radio right now. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2. Filling in for Dave Scott tonight. We're having an awesome conversation here with our guest tonight, Michael Osadona. Getting into some really deep stuff. We're about to also do some more of that. You can actually follow us if you're on social media, X and Instagram, at Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Radio Show. We'd appreciate a follow over there. And hit the little heart thing on X if you wouldn't mind. As we get back into the conversation here with Michael, I did want to talk about this. So, you know, and I was leading into this, but we ran into the break. But when we are being targeted by extraterrestrials and given information, which I think, truthfully, is you're supposed to give that to everyone else. You're supposed to spread that. That's how I feel. And I talked to a guest on Saturday here, this past Saturday, Reed Summers, and, you know, we were going over kind of the logical approach to, okay, why are these things here? Like, literally, what is their intent based off of evidence that we have, just things that we could point to and physically touch, things that we have. And one of the things that he brought up that I thought about was, okay, with some of these contact experiences, these downloads, these direct contacts, where it seems like these ETs want this particular person to spread the information, what do we have that shows us or tells us that we're not being fed the wrong information, or we're being used as a tool, like essentially to spread disinformation? Like, because when you think about it like that, it's like, wow, okay, if we don't have checks and balances to be able to vet the data that we're receiving from them, then we literally could be passing on misinformation to spread to those who haven't been contacted, and kind of make that a global thing where we have this message that the experiencer and the person receiving the information feels is supposed to be given, but is technically being used as a tool to disinform. Have you ever thought about it like that? And then if so, like, what kind of checks and balances do you think we could have in place as we figure out if we should be relaying that information?
You know, Rob, I've never even thought about that. I got to tell you, because of the resulting amplified abilities that I have after meeting the ETs, and how all these things help me help other people. I just can't even go that it's bad or it's wrong. My heart doesn't feel that way. My conversations with God don't result in that way. And I'm one of the few people who have met ET and met Satan, or at least Satan's realm, both. And I know the difference.
Yeah.
There are demons, and there's no doubt about that. Okay. But, you know, for example, Nino Rodriguez, I like the guy, awesome, but he now seems to think that anything alien is automatically demonic. And it's only because he hasn't had a face-to-face meeting with any benevolent ETs, or any ETs, actually, that he would conclude that. He's just taking other people's word for it. And it's not, and I'm not holding it against him. Like I said, I think it's great. I like the guy. He's a nice guy. Got a great show. But it's one of those things that until you've been there, you really shouldn't make a conclusion. And so if you've been there then you should know by the surroundings, the feeling, how you felt inside, whether it was a good or a bad thing, and whether it was um, influenced by good or evil. And it's not black and white. Sometimes there's both influences involved in an experience. So I guess the only way we could double check is with our soul and through prayer and logic, and not necessarily in that order. When every night on the tour now, when I hand the goggles to someone, I look into their eye, but I don't really look into their eyes. My third eye looks into their eyes, and I can see whether they've got farsighted, nearsighted, astigmatism, retinal damage, a scar tissue, or whatever, by glancing at their eyes for 1 second, and then I focus the goggle to match their eyes. I think the most question I've ever gotten on my tour is, how do you do that? I don't know. I just do it. It's one of those things that it's a good thing, because I've helped people. I've diagnosed eye problems with people and had them come on a tour a year later and say, I went to my eye doctor and I told him what you said. And he looked and he said, there's no way he could have known that, because he didn't have a $50,000 machine that you're telling you, and yet I do. So I think that there's a potential for good and bad influencing, but I think that you will know that you won't be fooled by it because it's so strong. You'll know whether it's good or bad. Now, if you're already taken by the dark side, then you're probably going to get influence that's dark. And you're not going to know it because you're already taken by the dark side. And there's people on this planet who have no soul, Rob, and a lot of them are in positions of power.
Yeah.
So when any individual meets an ET, they're going to have to determine for themselves through those parameters whether it's a positive or negative meeting, because it could be either. But there's really no reason, if you think about it logically, not a big reason for ETs in general, especially third, fourth dimensional ETs, to interact with us and trying to get us to do bad things. First of all, it's against the rules. There's exopolitics, and there's rules. And the prime directive is really one of them. I mean, Roddenberry was a contactee and a Space Force contactee. So he, back then it was Dark Fleet. So he was a Dark Fleet contactee and an ET contactee. He had information about what's really going on. So that's why Star Trek was so accurate, 40 years ahead of the public distribution of the technology. But I think to answer your question, really it's a matter of having, first of all, your own personal relationship with God and being able to use that to discern. Because all else fails, that's always a path that you can use to discern.
And and I like that. I like that answer, actually. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because there's definitely something I figure you would have to lean on to, because I know even some of the best people who can judge character have at times been misled. A person you thought that was a really great person, they showed you in so many ways because that person knew how to play on certain things that they saw within you. And that's essentially what they do in the government with this disinformation, misinformation, the psyops, all this whole situation. So, you figure if they're good enough to do that, and they can do that to some pretty strong people, that maybe the extraterrestrials, being so far advanced, would have that something like that mastered as well. But then, yeah, when you say leaning into certain things for verification, like if you're religious, your belief in God, or even just the senses that we have, the natural normal senses, which I think are enough, truthfully. but I just think they've been dumbed down to a point or suppressed so much to where, you know, sometimes we don't trust those feelings that we get, like that gut feeling or that intuition. Those things that probably are the things that could tell us yes or no as far as judgment goes. But
Do you know what that gut feeling is, Rob?
what is that?
Your gut literally has 500 million microbes in it.
Yeah.
And there's this big nerve ganglia that goes from your digestive tract to your brain called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve, not Vegas like Las Vegas, but Vegas, okay? Look it up, folks. The vagus nerve is what feeds that feeling from your gut to your brain. Those little boogers are sensitive, and they can detect when things are wrong around you. In your gut. That's why you have a gut feeling, okay?
Into that,
It really is a gut feeling because there's beings in your gut. There's microbes are alive. It's life. And it's sensitive to its environment. And so listen to your gut feeling, people. I have gone out, like to go out on an adventure, to go have fun with a friend in a car, for instance. And we're going to go, let's say, over to a barbecue at a friend's or something. And I get on the road and say, nope, got to turn around right now. And my friend's going, no way, it's all going to be fun. You're going to love it. It's going to be great. I said, nope, turn me around right now. Let's head back for the house. I'll put a movie on. You know, we'll watch that.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often. But I always listen to it because it's never been wrong.
There you go.
Yeah.
When you learn to trust that feeling, and that's just the thing, is just because for whatever reason, society and just what we're trained to live, the way we're trained to live, it teaches us not to listen to those things and to second guess those things. And it's just that, you know, someone like yourself, and there are certain individuals who have grown to trust that feeling every time because you understand what that means. But for some people, there's other things that they're able to be persuaded to overlook that gut feeling that they have or the intuition. And I know it's a real thing because they say I'll say this, you know, they say women's intuition is a thing. And as a young guy in life, I used to be like, oh, that's nothing. But in the back of my mind, I know it's real and they're right. I'm like, how did she know? How did she know? There's no way.
If you didn't figure it out from your mom, then you'll figure it out from your wife.
Exactly.
Later on.
Oh,
okay?
My gosh.
Because they'll do things and you go, why? What do you mean there's something wrong with our son? Well, there's something wrong. I just know there's something wrong. Like I got to find out, you know. And of course she's right. You know, you don't argue with them because they're right.
Yeah, and I'll admit that being at this older age and stage of my life, and you're getting that again, that older stage of my life when, you know, now I figured out that intuition is a real thing. And one of those senses that we have to really look at. And I think just like I said before, I think those senses can answer a lot of the questions. I say this all the time on this show, but it's really being able to, I guess, hone those things. And I don't know if it's, you know, maybe you need to step outside of this bubble that everyone's in order to allow those, to trust those feelings and allow those feelings to kind of grow and get stronger. But I guess, I mean, because when it comes down to it, most people aren't awakened yet. And so they're still in a state where they could be, I feel like there's more chances of those people being deceived. And so you have to ask yourself, who's delivering the message? And then, like, are they really in a place to have vetted that or trusted their gut before they take that information and relay it to the masses or to someone else? But like yourself,
I kind of go the other way around, Rob. I kind of go the other way around. I listen to each individual message, and then I determine, I analyze it for truth.
Mm-hmm.
No matter who says it, even if the person, the last 20 things they said was Bravo Sierra, We all know what that means, right? Here, okay, BS. I listen to each thing because sometimes someone who's recently been all wrong comes up with a different view and a different analysis of something, and I go, no, there's an aspect of it that I hadn't figured out, and I go diving down to research that avenue and find out there's no exceptions, and so it's truth. So I have an old, in homeschooling our son, one of the things I used to say is, just because the fool of the town is hanging by his knees from the limb of a tree and he shouts at you, hey, there's a brick about to hit you in the head, doesn't mean there's no brick. Okay? Just because he's the fool hanging by his knees from the limb of a tree. So, I try to take each piece of information and analyze it without any predispositioned, because that's part of, like, for instance, and don't think of this as political, think of this as medical. That's part of how Trump derangement syndrome has happened, TDS, where if you even mention the word Trump, they go off the handle and go spewing off into strange lands of cuss words and things that you've never heard before. Look, everybody's got good and bad in them. All of us do. And so to do that, no matter who, I mean, I know some actors who are involved in really bad child stuff, okay?
Yeah.
And I don't like them, but occasionally one of them will come out and say something that's like, wow, I didn't expect that out of their mouth. That makes sense. They're speaking logically. So we got to give them a chance to speak. This is what's so important about free speech and what's so dangerous about your government trying to censor you and your free speech. Free speech isn't for comfortable speech. Free speech is for uncomfortable speech.
No, and I'm with you on that. That's why I have conversations, actually. That's my whole thing, conversations that move the needle. And some of those conversations, I tell people all the time, are going to be tough conversations, but they have to be had regardless on how you feel in the moment. The benefit to understanding or getting through that conversation is way more than not having the conversation to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So I'm totally with you on that. I really am. Now, with that being said, so we've gotten into a lot of stuff here. I wanted to make sure that we covered a couple things here because a lot of people, you mentioned this kind of earlier, but says that you were previously employed by a DoD contractor. That's very interesting. Right. Who and what were you doing there?
So I was working for a company, a major military contractor, corporation, and I don't give names, but it was a big one. You all would know the name. Yeah, I don't want to go any more further than that. But I started out as an assembler, became a technician, and became an engineer, all without a degree, which was impossible. You couldn't do it at this company because it was a contract company, and the government required that technicians had degrees, and I didn't have a degree. But I had engineers working for me, and I'm doing their performance reviews because I know how to do their job better than they do, even though they have a degree. I spent 10 and a half years working at this company, and ended up going to school in the last year and getting a degree. I got my bachelor's in computer science in 17 months, summa cum laude, because I know the math, and brought that piece of paper back to them, and they said, they were going to give me this massive promotion if I got a degree. Well, they thought it was going to take me 7.5 years, and it took me 17 months.
Yeah.
So then I learned about corporate politics, and the next thing you know, they're backpedaling on all their promises and all that. So that's why I retired. But I worked on missile and satellite systems. So I worked on the Standard missile, the HARM missile, the Phoenix missile, M735, anti-tank, depleted uranium anti-tank that's now unclassified. It wasn't before. I can't think of all the projects I worked on in programs I did, satellite programs. I can't name you some of them. I'm still under oath on some projects, not to mention their names. But we did have a satellite system. If you hang on just a second. Okay. So we did have a satellite system that we put up that can tell who you are when you're outside. It can tell who you are without a phone in your pocket, without any electronics on you. It knows who you are, because the match between your phone and a set of notes put out by your brain, which I'll call a cord, not to be confused with the brain nervous cord, but the brain notes cord. Everybody puts out a unique one of those, and the satellite logs those. So now anytime you're outside, it knows who you are, unless you're closer than 6 feet apart. Because if you're with other people and you're closer than 6 feet apart, it can't discern one from another. Now you know why you were told to stand 6 feet apart 3 years ago.
Interesting.
Nothing to do with human contagion. The only study that's ever been peer-reviewed and repeated that involved human study determined that you had to be 39 feet apart to make sure that you weren't contagious with another human. The 6 feet thing was not anything ever part of it. Where did that came from? That come from they wanted to be able to detect who you were versus someone else. Because guess what? You got a mask on. It's harder to detect who you are, but if a satellite can tell who you are, then it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, that's very interesting that you put that out that way. It just like I said, without getting political, I definitely, going through that time in our lives, I definitely wondered why the specific number, and it was definitely something that passed through my mind, because I figured maybe why 6, why not 7, why not 8, 9, 10? Could be 10 I'd feel safer, but yeah, okay. But I wanted to point to something as well, because you stated that you went to work for one of these unnamed contractors without having a degree. And so I wanted to point that out, because obviously that leads into sort of the Bob Lazar thing, where he was picked up to work on some of the most elaborate things that we have possession of without a degree. Or I guess people say he lied and said he had a degree, but he technically didn't. He was just a really smart guy, and they knew to tap into that. And I'll piggyback off of that, because my brother, and I've talked to him many times, I told him I was going to say this on air, but he never graduated high school. He's in like year 20 working aeronautics at NASA right now.
Right.
Never finished high school, didn't get a degree to do it, but was so smart that he was able to get on and be there for 20 years, still going. So I wanted to point that out. That is a thing. Yep. And, and that just kind of leans in, because a lot of people like to try to X Bob Lazar's story out and say, because of these certain things, he couldn't have been there.
Well, I met Bob. So
how do you feel about that?
I met Bob, but in fact, he's the reason. I don't know if I have an album sitting around here right now. I don't have one handy that I can show you.
Well, we're going to break in 30 seconds, so you can grab it.
All right. I got a band called Element 115. I had a band called Element 115. I invented a MIDI to animation converter and had a 3D animated alien drummer on stage with us.
Yes.
It's because of Bob Lazar.
Okay, we'll talk more about that. That's interesting, because we actually have a show on this channel called Element 115. What? Yeah, we do. Actually comes on Fridays.
Oh, I got some more music for you then.
With that being said, hey, there we go. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and take this break, guys. We're getting on the back half of the second hour already, right here with our guest, Michael Osadona. You guys don't go anywhere. We're going to go ahead and get this thing finished strong. I have your questions as well. We will be asking those. Please submit more. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. right, we are clear. We have about 5 minutes to do this here. Hope everybody's doing okay out there. Simon Alaikum, I see you. Richard Minnick, Tippy Butterscotch, thanks for coming in. Susan Plays, Abbott Hoffman, Cat Tongue. Let's see who else. Angels Are Life, Zenzabil, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you. And Joanne, I'm probably saying your name twice, but we're just gonna do it anyways. Samat, man. I think Richard Minnick said I didn't say anything last time. I'm saying something to you now, Richard Minnick. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. Woo Riders DG, thanks for coming on in. Beat on with it. Like that. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you. Let's see. Gizmo, JoJo, R2D2. Let's see here. The Mac Geek. Yeah, we're looking good. Kevin Kennedy, I think I said your name, but okay, here we go. Yeah, we're looking good. We're looking good.
I was trying to find the album. I can't find the CD.
Yeah.
Element 115, the band, was hang on.
Oh yeah, it looks like we have a link in the chat too. Someone put the YouTube link for your band. Element 115, the band. YouTube.com/Element115, the band.
Element115theband.com has got all kinds of pictures.
And here's the guitars I want to show real quick while we're still on break.
Yeah. So, this the one that's my favorite is that 76 limited edition Gibson Explorer. And I played that on stage for decades as my primary guitar.
Showing the guitars, guys. If you can see here, yep, Tim Hoffman says, whoa, nice collection. Simon
This is a Charvel by Gibson, the white one in front. And I got, lots of Les Pauls and Explorers and Flying V's and double necks and stuff like that.
So, guys, he's not talking to talk. He's walking the walk. You see the collection there. That is an awesome collection. And they all got the picks right there, right in reach.
Yeah, my studio is always live. So I can walk up to the keyboards or bass or guitars or drum and just start playing.
Man.
That's whatever on the radio or whatever in my music list or whatever, and I play every instrument. So it's a good way to live your life.
Yeah, that's how I started. I played by ear. My mom, she bought me a Casio keyboard at 9 years old, and I went ahead. I was playing songs off the radio by ear within a few weeks.
Yep.
And then picked up the saxophone, the alto, and the soprano by age 11. My siblings played other instruments, and then I would take their instruments and play those.
Yep.
A clarinet and
I did that with baritone, trumpet,
and the violin as well. Yep. I played the trumpet. My best friend had the trumpet. We would swap instruments. We used to play for the elementary school pancake breakfast just because we would just do it because we felt like it.
Yeah.
And that was my start, man. Just real young and just full appreciation for all music. Period. I listened to everything. If it sounds good sonically, I listen to it.
Yeah, I had a rule when I was learning all this stuff. I had a big spurt in 5th grade, and so I spent a lot of time in 5th and 6th grade in my room, and we listened to one radio station. We wouldn't change. We were loyal. It was KRLA in Los Angeles and was it KRIZ in Phoenix. And when a song that was on it was kind of crummy, we didn't change the station.
Right.
We waded through it. Well, what I did was I waded through it with my guitar. And I played every song, no matter what it was, whether I liked it or not. And by the end of the song, I could play it.
That's awesome.
And that's how I learned to just kind of play everything. I don't read music. I write music at the same speed I read music. Very, very slow. But by ear, I'm now gotten to such a point, and it's really, it amazes me. I've gotten to such a point where I can hear something, and I walk over the keyboard, which is my newest instrument, right? I learned that at 20. And just by playing with it, I can now walk over and start playing whatever's on, or hit. I know the notes. Perfect pitch. I know the note of what's being played, and can walk over and start playing it. And I never had a lesson on any of these.
Coming back right now, 5 seconds here.
Oh, good. Life is fun.
Yes. Right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour 1.5. We're on the last half of the second hour. Last 23 minutes with our guest here. Michael Osadana. It's been actually an excellent time, excellent conversation. So you guys, if you missed it, jumping back in the archives, youtube.com/@spacedoutradio. You can get anything you missed plus more. Don't forget to go ahead and do that as we jump back into the conversation here with Michael Osadana. So Sedona, I want to get into, so real quick, we were just ending that break talking about the fact that you don't have to be educated academically in order to find yourself in some of these programs or positions. There's an example with yourself, which you went over. There's the example I gave with my brother. That's a person that, obviously grew up with the kid. And then, flipping that over to Bob Lazar. So we were talking about Bob Lazar, how a lot of people feel like he shouldn't be believed because he said he went to MIT and they can't find any records of that. But that doesn't mean that you can't find yourself in these sort of positions. I think the government literally scouts people like that, people who they know are highly intelligent, and kind of goes to pick those people out. That makes sense.
In fact, they actually scout kids in early grade school and find out the ones that are way ahead. And they try to get them involved in advanced placement programs. And then when they hit high school, they try to get them involved in electives that fit a government role, a military or intelligence role. And then the student gets into it and they're naturals at it, of course. And then when they're ready to graduate, the government can then offer them a job that's exactly what they want because the government steered them that way to begin with.
Yeah.
And so that makes them good tools for whatever, government project that's been laid out. And I'm not saying that's always a bad thing, but sometimes it is. And sometimes, we now have Mars colony. There's 2 million people on Mars. They're never coming to Earth. 2 generations have been born on Mars now. They're never going to experience what we have on Earth. And they're told a story that Earth is, not livable. It's kind of been, destroyed. Just like we're told that Mars is unreachable and has no atmosphere. But they fly a helicopter in it, but it has no atmosphere.
Right.
So there's I don't know, there's guidances that they do to try to get the people that are naturally able to do these things, and then they get them to have fun and think it's their choice. See, they think that the student's picking this, but they're not. They're being guided into it. It's tricky.
That is tricky and amazing to think, because I'm thinking, I broke the mold, because I'll tell you what, they pointed me out as a gifted and talented kid back in elementary school. And every level of schooling that I went to, they tried to put me into those programs for gifted and talented. But I had other ideas of things I wanted to do. So I didn't focus on that, and which I think is what they wanted me to do, because they also steered me through like ROTC and cadets and things like that. And that wasn't really my thing. That's why I never continued with it. But when you sit here and you talk about how they actually pre-position you and kind of set you up to have you do, and I wonder if they did that with my brother. I don't know. I'll have to ask him when I talk to him.
UCLA was trying to recruit me out of 5th grade.
Wow.
So in 5th grade, I had finished the 8th grade's curriculum. This is in La Crescenta, California, in 1969.
Yeah.
in fifth grade, they had this curriculum at that school called SRA, and it allowed you to go at your own speed. You could read cards and test, and read cards and test. And it was different colored cards that you read as you progressed. And I finished 8th grade and 5th grade, and so UCLA was there to recruit me. And my stepdad was a former Air Force cryptographer, not a dummy, and also a conspiracy, what would now be considered a conspiracy theorist. Even that word was made up in 1963 for people who were investigating the Kennedy assassination, but by the CIA. But he knew that there was something that wasn't right, didn't pass the smell test, and we left California in 69 or late 69, early 70, and came to Arizona to get away from them.
That makes me, when I hear that stuff, and because like I said, I just got into this a few years ago, right? So as I go down the path, and I've spoken to hundreds of people at this point, it opens something else new for me to consider. And so, I've heard in early on in this, when I first started, I heard about kids being indoctrinated or taken into these programs at an early age. And I just never, I'm like, okay, wouldn't the parents recognize that? But if it's being done right under their noses, then
and they're told their child is special.
Yeah.
Your child gets to have the special program because they're so smart.
Yeah.
And then they're never seen from again.
Yeah.
And then what do you do?
Well, and that just opens that up to me. And that's why I love having these conversations. That's why the bumper says conversation to move the needle, because these type of conversations always open me up to another thought process. Okay. So with that being said, I want to make sure that we get some of these audience questions out the way, because I know we have a few.
Let's do Q&A, buddy. Let's do Q&A.
We got T-Bone who wants to know, ask Michael what it says on his shirt.
Oh, other side. Arizona UFO Tours.com. Oh no, this says Sedona UFO Tourguide.com. This is what I started with when I was doing these in Sedona, as the Sedona UFO Tourguide.com, and I started that, and then a year later, this guy from Hawaii sold his little house in Hawaii for $20 million, and came into Sedona and got storefronts and buses and all kinds of things, and started calling himself Sedona UFO Tours. Well, that is easily confusing with Sedona UFO Tour Guide, right? So it gives me two choices. I could sue him on intellectual property, which I've never lost an intellectual property case, and have been suing those for 20 years. But I'm really hard to get along with for 10 months, and my wife has to live with an attorney. Not fun. I am not fun. I'm good, but I'm not fun to live with when I'm an attorney. So then my other choice was to make it humorous and find a way around it. So I created Arizona UFO Tours, which makes Sedona UFO Tours superfluous.
Yeah.
And then I converted a Suburban into a twin turreted 3.5-inch laser cannon monster, and I have a big alien on the side windows, and I drive that uptown and around right in front of the other guy's place, and then I take his people away from him, see, because they want to come to Arizona UFO Tours, because mine looks like a lot more fun.
That's awesome. We have a good friend of the show here, Melinda Leslie, that does UFO tours. You know,
Melinda and Anita are the only two people in Sedona that's been doing this longer than I have.
Yeah, awesome lady.
Melinda, I see her at some of the conferences that I speak at. Yeah,
definitely. We got Super Crazy Movie Geek asking you, are ETs abducting humans to make alien-human hybrids?
There are still 22 programs going on that I know of. So 11 different species running 22 different programs on genetic testing and manipulation on hybridization. Everybody, okay, they all want to know, how is it that second and third chromosome got joined? Because nobody can figure it out. They can't figure it out. You know, they think they're all that smart, but they can't figure out how this was done. And so the humans, they have direct connection to God. They have this wide amount of emotions, skewing their perception of reality, and they have biological reproduction. And so that's like the trifecta that really they can't figure it out. They're curious about all that because most of them don't reproduce that way. They're created in a test tube or whatever. Most of them don't have the emotions that we have, and none of them have the direct connection to 11th dimensional creator. So it makes us an anomaly, a terranomaly.
This one goes kind of right into some of what you were just speaking about here. Paramarv asks, why would God need to grow?
Because one of the things that's the parameter of determining life is growth in some way. Stagnation, something that's just stagnant isn't alive, and a God wouldn't be stagnant. It would be constantly riding the surf of the change, or being the cause of the change, and then analyzing the change. I think in this case, because I kind of have a feeling for 11th dimensional creator in the purity of its mathematics, that the formula would need to continue like a non-repeating decimal. And I think that's what we bring back to the collective when we leave the meat suit, is this new data.
Okay.
So it's like furthering the extension on the decimal of pi.
Okay, for sure. We got Mike Rivers asking you, Michael, what's your view on the return of Nibiru?
Okay, Nibiru is a theoretical 35,000 year cycle. So it doesn't always come exactly to the same distance. Sometimes it comes farther, sometimes it comes nearer. There have been times where Planet X or Nibiru or the brown star or whatever it is comes by and wreaks havoc on this planet. The giant H stones in Colombia or Ecuador, I can't remember which one it is now, that are were laid down because of a close flyby. Some of our disease pandemics on this planet were caused by Nibiru flybys. I'm just going to use, I don't think it's really Nibiru, but that's what he asked, so I'm going to use that name. It's a periodic thing every 35,000 years. I don't know when the last time was it came by, but I would suspect that something in the next 5 to 10,000 years, we should definitely see another pass.
Okay, all right. We will not be here to see that, but
not in this body.
Exactly, true. And we got Super Crazy Movie Geek asking, what happened to Flight MH370 in your opinion?
That is really an amazing thing. I have the video of the plane being disappeared by 3 balls that surrounded and then did counter rotation and then did longitudinal rotation, and then the plane vanished. I believe it was transported to another place, that everything was logged in on those passes of the balls, and then a 4th ball was there when it reappeared, and I think that it was taken after it reappeared, was taken down to Diego Garcia, and I think that it was taken over to Israel and will be used at a later date.
Okay, so are you under? Well, let's address this first. Some people would say that video has been debunked. Have you heard that, and what do you think about that?
Anything that's unexplained has been debunked. Just ask Snopes.
No, I like that. I like that. Okay, so let me see. There was a guy also I saw recently on a podcast, name is Ashton Forbes, and he kind of gave his opinion on this and stated that he doubles down to say the video is real. He even points out a person in the government named Edward C. Lynn, who I guess was a service member, who he stated was the one that filmed the screen, that was the screenshots being filmed of the screen, and that this was real, and that the technology is possessed by the government. He actually says, and I wrote the quote down, he says, I think we're looking at Lockheed Martin technology. I think we we figured out anti-gravity. I don't know if we reverse engineered it or if we dug something up and figured it out, or if we figured this out going all the way back to the Manhattan Project and the Philadelphia experiment. But I think we've got this technology. I think that's our technology. And I think that Edward C. Lynn, he might not have even known. I think that he might have thought it was UFOs and thought, oh, I'm not hurting anybody by leaking this information to his Taiwanese friends who are allies with us against China. And then they push it on the internet, and then the rest is history. What do you think about that?
There was definitely a group of engineers, Taiwanese engineers, which is not China, never has been China. When it was Taipei, it wasn't China. It's never been China. When 7 or 8 of those engineers are on that plane, and they just perfected radar spoofing and radar falsing, and they have the technology and they're carrying it to a meeting with some Chinese people, I can see how the U.S. and or Mossad would organize a way to take that, to use whatever technology is necessary to make sure that the other side didn't get that tech. And I think that was a hijacking, and I think that in the process of stealing the plane, everybody on board was probably killed.
Wow. So the UFO extraterrestrial theory out the window. You don't think they were involved?
There's no need to do that. There's nothing on there that would be of interest. All the stuff that's really of interest is on the 7 space stations that you don't know about. Or maybe you know about, Rob, but most people don't. The 7 classified space stations. That's where the stuff is. That's where the med beds and the 0-point energy use and all that kind of stuff is going on. So if there was going to be anything that was going to be attacked, it wouldn't be some radar spoofing technology.
Okay.
However, humans like Mossad and CIA, they would definitely be interested in making sure that they had control of that technology.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, looking at the extraterrestrial aspect, what would they want with the plane? Okay, that I can see that and see there really aren't any answers to that. But
they took a 57 Corvette and a 57 Chevy and a Boeing 757. Yeah, that's what they did.
So one thing I want to get to as we have about 5 minutes here is I know you had a book and the title, I like it. Wake Up and Do Something, right?
It's called Wake Up and Do Something. How Meeting Extraterrestrials Changed My Life. Now this is my book. This right here. And you say, well, where's the pages? Well, this is a slap bracelet. And on the edge of the slap bracelet, there's a jump drive.
Wow.
And on this jump drive is the ebook, the PDF book, the audio book, okay, the Wake Up album, the Do Something album, Mississippi Queen, Hats Off to the Bull, I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, Crawl Away. I tracked lots of songs, licensed all of them, played all the instruments, all the vocals, and put it on this nifty little slap bracelet that cost $20, including shipping.
I like that.
Such a deal. Color pictures, everything. You can print your own book.
Stepping outside of the box, thinking outside of the box, giving value there. There's value there, and then there's also more value there. So I like that. I do like that.
Right.
Thinking outside the box.
I always want to give more than what people pay. That's my tours. My tours. I have a cash price of $80. Everybody else in town is charging $130, $140. I give the answer to any question asked on any topic on the tour by everybody. It's more value. I tell you what's coming in the next 60 days. More value. It's like, why would you go anywhere else? Really.
Kira points out a great point here. Unless that's a chip tracker, unless that chip is a tracker.
I guarantee you there's no. I didn't pay that much for them to have that tracking technology in them. So no, and I'm big. There's nobody bigger on privacy. I mean, if you listen to my music, you'll find out there's nobody bigger on privacy than I am. Listen to
gonna-
New American Anthem. Enough is enough. Don't come for my gun. What Would You Do is a great song off the Wake Up album, which talks about the militarization of our police and how it's abusing our rights, how houses are being busted into by the wrong address. People shot in the middle of the night, and they're innocent. They had nothing to do with whatever the cops thought they were doing. And so, you know, this is kind of some of the problems that our republic faces, and that's why I made music about them. That's why I write songs about them.
And see, so I have a personal channel called The Social Dig, and we attack social issues, things that positively affect humanity, solution, things of that nature. And I talked to Brown Dorf, who's in our chat tonight. He asked me the other day, because he knows I'm a musician as well, and we talked about how, you know, currently I'm keeping these two things separate. So my music plate is here, my hosting plate and duties are here, but I am looking for a point where I want those things to merge, but I don't want to do it in a corny manner. Right. And I want to make sure that when I do it, it's done right. So I'm definitely going to be listening to your music. Take some cues on how you implemented that.
That sounds a lot like my rules when I made Element 115, the band. I was going to make a band with an ET drummer, right? And it's about this guy from another planet wanted to be a rock drummer because he was 30 light years away and was picking up old rock and roll, and he loved it, and so he wanted to be a drummer in a rock band. But his planet doesn't have that. So he and I worked out a way to get real-time communication between our planets using sublight, and so he appeared on stage with us and played drums. Every drum perfectly, every cymbal perfectly to every song we played. The rule was it couldn't be corny. Yeah. So we got these outfits made. It had a stage design that I put together, and you know, robotic lights and fog and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't corny. This drummer was a drummer, and in 2007 and 2008, it was really quite, you know, advanced technology. Now, you know, today probably not so much, but back then it really was. And we live streamed around the world in 2008. Russia and Australia and China and other people saw our ET drummer playing on stage live at the Roswell UFO Festival in 2008.
So is that also on the Element 115 YouTube channel you have?
The YouTube just shows some videos. Element115theband.com is a photo archive history from the beginning to the end of Element 115 and in their performance life.
Okay. And I want to give you this full time here. So we have about 1 minute. Right. If you want to tell everybody where to find you and find everything. Yeah. The best way to find out like what's really going on about everything is my TV channel, which is not YouTube, my own channel, my server, my bandwidth. I can't be censored. They can't stop me. It's called truthontv.tv. So if you go to, in my pocket, bam, just like that, truthontv.tv, okay, truthontv.tv. I've got 220 hours of documentaries that are banned on all the social media because they tell the truth. And I've got a whole bunch of comedy because once you go down those rabbit holes, you got to have some relief. And so I put, you know, a whole lot of deep, serious stuff and old good comedy on the same channel, and there's no commercials, and it's $49 a year. $49 a year. And then one of the shows, okay, let me get to that. I'll show you this. Okay, moving this away. Okay, I should have audio now. Yep.
This is Sedona UFOs is one of my TV shows on the Truth on TV. And that's where I interview. Want to see it again?
Yo, we got to wrap it up right now.
Okay. So contact me through truthontv.tv or here's a good one. Michael at ArizonaUFOtours.com. Michael at ArizonaUFOtours.com.
Thank you, Michael Sedona, for joining us tonight. We're going to do this again. Have a good rest of your night, man. Take care.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, clear, awesome stuff there with our guest tonight, Michael Sedona. We'll have him back. I'll bring him in on the after hours. I'll be right back, guys. Take care. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3. This is me, Mr. Rob G, filling in for Dave Scott tonight as we go ahead and get ready to come back from radio break here in about 10 seconds. Guys, get ready. Let's go. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3. We're in the third hour, the final hour of the show, as we get into some Steve Stockton here, and then also we'll be joined by Tim James, Mr. UFO Tim James of that fame. Guys, don't forget, if you missed any of this show or anything you need to go back and watch, Spaced Out Radio, you can find on youtube.com/@spacedoutradio. You can jump into archives. They're absolutely free as we go ahead and get ready to jump into what we're going to do here in hour 3. As you can see on the screen, once again, we're going to have Tales Untold, Missing Persons Mysteries with none other than our guy, Steve Stockton. Let's go ahead and jump into some of that here. Here we go.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. However, most state that these creatures are master manipulators, and should you come across them, never, under any circumstances, enter into any kind of deal or arrangement with them. Again, they are considered to be master manipulators and also masters of language, and can find loopholes and use linguistic trickery to fool you into dealing with them for you to only too late realize you don't stand a chance at getting what you want or supposed to get, and yet the Fae get everything they're supposed to out of the deal. They will always benefit, mostly at the detriment of the other person. As they say in Vegas, the house always wins. Here are a few rules of engagement when it comes to these mystical beings. Never insult them and always be polite. Try your very best not to anger them, as this is how most people end up disappearing. If you ever get the feeling you're being watched by something invisible or get a sudden feeling you're not supposed to be where you are, turn around and leave immediately. Now, they do love presents and gifts. However, choose what you leave for them very carefully, as if whatever it is isn't sweet, your positive gesture can quickly turn into a negative experience. Think hard candy or other sugary sweets. Also, never use the words thank you or I'm sorry. For some reason, it is only acceptable to state pardon me and I appreciate that. The fairies have been known to sometimes speak in riddles, and there's almost always some kind of hidden meaning underneath what they're saying, so pay close attention and listen carefully. For instance, as one commenter on another video pointed out, I'm sorry admits fault, while pardon me simply asks for forgiveness. Also, thank you will put you in their debt, whereas I appreciate that simply expresses gratitude. Now, what do you think of all these encounters? Every culture since time immemorial has had these stories of the Fae or the fairy folk, including the Native Americans in Appalachia, where I'm from. Do you believe these people exist? Do you believe that they are who cause people to disappear in the woods and forests and never to return? It seems lately that with all the craziness happening in the world, it's becoming easier and easier to forget about all the things that could be even worse going on in the world around us that we can't see. Seems like every time we turn on the television, there's just more and more destruction and chaos. And it gets me wondering, is this what they want? Is this all a very carefully carried out plan to take the focus away from the world of the unknown, to make sure we don't get too close to figuring out the truth about what really goes on behind the scenes? The things the powerful elite and possible government entities who we are indoctrinated to trust since the time we learned to talk don't want us to see? What is it they're trying to distract us from? Well, what we're going to focus on today is a continuation in the bizarre disappearances in the woods. After all, the families of the missing can never be distracted into forgetting that their loved one was here one minute and poof, gone the next. In researching the Fae and the connection with those who vanish, I have a feeling inside that I came so very close to touching on something. To lifting or at least thinning out the veil that separates the actual truth from the reality we're taught to believe. After all, if you're subscribed to this channel and interested in this title, it stands to reason that you, too, are wondering what exactly is lurking in the woods. In the deep, dark parts of the world's forests and national parks, something is snatching and stalking helpless humans, seemingly right out of existence. Come and take another walk with me, folks, as I explore the deepest depths of not only the reality we see right in front of us, but perhaps the hidden worlds of the unknown, in the deepest, darkest depths of our very minds. But be careful. Don't be the first or last in line. Don't go near the boulder fields. Don't pick berries. Don't wear red. And don't insult that which you're unfamiliar with. And please, whatever you do, don't turn a corner and separate from the group. Here's part 2 of The Missing and the Fae. Before we begin, let's all try and get the images out of our head of the fairies, fae folk, that we were taught about as small children. The tiny, sparkly, and happy, always trying to help, and devastatingly beautiful creatures who flutter around us wildly, sometimes sprinkling us with sparkly fairy dust to help us to sleep. Well, maybe something like that, as far as the fairy dust is concerned. But I'm convinced that there is something much more sinister afoot, that these very small, usually ornery and not so helpful beings use to confuse and put humans to sleep so they can steal them away, take them from the here that is known to there, which is unknown, or the other. If only it were simple and cutesy and fun as a little sprinkle of glittery dust, and poof, all our troubles go away. In reality, however, it's more like sudden confusion which causes unrelenting panic as the hapless victims of these clever little tricksters, in the blink of an eye, find themselves completely lost, completely turned around, dazed and confused as to what just happened and where they are. Sometimes days are lost, sometimes more, and sometimes the victim is gone forever, lost to whatever game the fairies decided to make them a part of. Imagine, completely helpless, alone and afraid, screaming at the top of their lungs, only to find that they have no voice. Now, these little people are not always so little. While the majority of them are said to be under 4 feet tall, most even shorter, some have been said to be as tall as 7 feet. Just like humans, the way they look varies drastically from one to the other, with all having different facial features and personalities. Let's talk about some similarities between what's going on in the woods with all the clusters of missing people all over the world and what we know about the Fae. First off, boulder fields, and circles of stones in particular, should never be disturbed. This is where they live and play, and you do not want to disturb their home or resting place. They don't take kindly to anything they see disrespectful, and as seemingly very sensitive little creatures, that's most anything they don't give you permission to say or do. Do not even approach such places unless you're prepared for the fate that lay ahead of you, should you dare. After all, how could you be granted permission to do anything by entities in which you can't see with your human eyes unless they should choose to allow you to look upon them, which they most often do not give? If they ever should grant you this permission to gaze upon them, be wary, for they almost always have something up their sleeves. If you do not come prepared with gifts of sweets, alcohol, and or tobacco, do not expect a very generous welcome. In fact, if you do not bring such gifts, I suggest stay away altogether, as this will anger them. And they carry such great wrath for being so very tiny in size for the most part. There seems to also be an inordinate amount of people who go missing near berry bushes. You may be struck with an unexplained need to go and fill several baskets with juicy plump black or huckle or red or blueberries. There are too many kinds to name out there in the wild. We see all the time in movies about survival in the deep woods and forests that you should always beware of eating the berries to stay alive, for they might just be poisonous and, ironically, the very thing that kills you off. However, who do you think has poisoned the berries? struck with a sudden and irresistible impulse to go and gather the fresh fruit, you're most likely lured by the fae to your doom. They like to play, after all, and among the bushes and brambles of the berry patches is where they're known to do their dancing and mating. This is where they embrace the earth and sing with all their heart, sometimes fully visible, and most of the time at least audible to humans who are unfortunate enough to be in the general vicinity of them. If you should catch a glimpse of a dance or even a whisper of a tune, turn back, for they do not like to be disturbed. Again, they only like to be seen and heard if they choose it. If their choice should be taken away, then there will be consequences. Could this be the fate of so many who have disappeared among a berry patch in recent years? My advice? Go to your local grocer's produce section. They may not be as fresh picked, but hey, at least you won't be lost forever in the produce aisle.
All right, and that is Steve Stockton, Tales Untold, Missing Persons Mysteries. We also want to thank, always want to thank Steve Stockton for bringing these awesome stories here to the After Hours. And actually, I guess it's technically Dave's show, been filling in for Dave tonight. But anyways, we love Steve Stockton and totally appreciate his creepy stories. Yeah, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into our news segment here because we have none other than Tim James with the UFO report. Music is a little different tonight, but we're going to go ahead and go with it.
You're an irredeemable monster!
Come here, I'm going to eat you! Get in my belly!
Take him to the north! He doesn't have north! Go it! Wolfman's got north! You're a monster!
All right. The UFO report with Tim James. Thanks for joining me again. Nice to see you again.
You too, Rob. How's it going this evening?
Doing good. Great show so far. We had Michael Sedona, who came in talking about some really good stuff today. So I'm juiced up. Steve Stockton always lacing us with creepy tales. And then now we have you. We're going to finish this show off with the weird news. So what do you got for us tonight, Tim?
Well, it's not a phenomenal news day by any means, but it's funny. You just kind of, Dave and I were talking about it last week, and what we're finding is you either get way too much that you've got to sort through, or you get two things that everybody's commenting on, and it's a two-thing comment day today. So a lot of scuttlebutt and rumors and speculation and chit-chat about the James Webb Space Telescope, and I'm sure that everybody's kind of probably had their fill of it, I'm sure. But, yeah, lots of speculation, lots of things going on. We've got a craft the size of a small city flying towards Earth. People have jumped on that right now. A lot of people saying that Congress is, they've had committee meetings and stuff about the telescope. So trying to sift through it all today, it was everybody jumping on the bandwagon and giving their opinions. So in a way, I really couldn't narrow anything down to anything solid. But what I did find was the first thing was that Representative Andre Carson out from the House Intelligence Committee was recently asked, have you ever been in classified briefings on the James Webb Space Telescope? His answer, no comment. So digging around again today, and it was like a little bit of a shining light. Science Bob came up with, I think, probably the most level-headed response to all the rhetoric that was going on, and I just wanted to share that with you. So what he had said was James Webb Space Telescope secret, nothing but rumors so far. So based on the information available up to today, there have been posts on X suggesting that Congress has been briefed on findings related to the JWST, with some users hinting at significant or unsettling data. However, these posts alone do not constitute conclusive evidence of such briefings or the nature of the information discussed, due to the potential for misinformation or speculative content on social platforms. Publicly available official statements or documents directly confirming classified briefings specifically about the telescope findings to Congress have not been explicitly mentioned in the provided context. So, however, there has been mention of various classified briefings related to the UFOs, which might be conflated or confused with other space-related briefings due to the general interest of extraterrestrial life and space phenomenon. So, general. So, given this, marked out one, direct evidence. There's no direct evidence, verified evidence, or official acknowledgement in the provided texts that confirms a classified briefing specifically held on the telescope findings. Social media claims, ex posts suggest rumors or claims about such briefings, but these are not reliable without corroborating official sources, context, and classification. There are confirmed instances of Congress receiving classified briefings on related but different topics like UFOs, which might lead to mixed information. So, he finishes it off by saying, for the most accurate information, one would typically look for official statements from Congress, NASA, or related government bodies, or credible journalists that verify such events through multiple sources. If there was a briefing on the telescope findings, especially if classified, details might not be publicly disclosed, or they may be leaked through less official channels like social media, leading to speculation but not confirmation. So it was kind of one of those things. When I was going through it, when I was trying to narrow everything down and the information down, what I found is when Science Bob wrote that, I was like, yeah, exactly. Everybody was commenting on this today and giving their take, which fantastic, whatever. But like I think you and I talked about before, and I think Dave and I have talked about before, is that people read stuff and instead of doing their research, they take it as the truth. And I think sometimes that's what muddies up all of this. And quite honestly, I think the people that are the gatekeepers are loving it because we're all doing this. We're like little, rats in a cage, and they're sitting back there going, perfect, right? So exactly. I found that kind of interesting today.
Yeah. And when I hear that, I'm just, I'm shaking my head because in a disapproving fashion for those on radio, because I feel like they just, from what you were speaking there, that it sounds like they want to try to classify what the James Webb Telescope is seeing, regardless what it's seeing. If it's a spaceship the size of a city, or if it's just some new solar system or something that they pick up. Why would there even be a question of, this needing to be classified or unclassified? Because if that were the case, it would sound like that you're trying to classify what we can see in the sky. And it isn't a military instrument, right? So where does the classification come in? And that's kind of what I'm wondering.
Well, and that's just it too. Like I think I said on Friday, hey, everybody relax, the sky's not classified. And then I see this today and I'm like, you're kidding me. And I agree with you 100%. This is a lot of money put into something that I'm sure wasn't paid out of pocket by the government or like out of their pockets. It was paid for by the people, and it's up there so that they can explore. And that's the whole point. It's like sending up the space shuttle and then it coming back and go, so what happened? They go, oh, nothing. It's all classified. Well, like, what are you doing? It's something that you've talked about. You talked about forever. We're going to build it. We're going to see, we're going to do, we're going to all this sort of stuff. And then, all of a sudden, like, maybe we shouldn't tell you that, we saw another solar system.
Right. And then going down that path of thinking, right? So, they, just like you said, as they were building this thing up before they launched it and put it in position and started showing the first images, they were just promising that we were going to get so many things unlocked, so many answers to questions. And then I don't know if the initial report that they gave when they showed how now we may have to rethink the Big Bang Theory based on what we're seeing. I don't know if like things that came after that, they're like, whoa, wait a minute. None of this is what we thought. And so we're going to have to put the kibosh on releasing any of this information, or we're going to have it go through a process before we decide if this information gets out to the public or not.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? I don't know.
Oh, I'm on board with you too. I'm totally agree with that. It's just a weird situation the whole way around. I'm not 100% sure why it just does not make sense to me. And you're right. They want to hide it, and it just doesn't make sense to me. Why are they wanting to hide it? What you put it up there, and you know what? The way that I look at it is that if the Big Bang Theory and the doubt about the Big Bang Theory, if if that's the case, and they've seen something that totally blows their mind, like you're saying, they haven't missed the mark by inches. They've missed it by miles, right?
Yeah.
So everything that people have been taught, all the books, all the history books and stuff, I mean, that could be a complete game changer. And I don't know if anybody or if the officials are ready to go, you're not going to believe this. We got it totally wrong. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's, saving a little face too, right? But yeah, I think there's more out there, obviously, than they're going to let us
But you see,
know about.
that's the problem. That's where
Mhm.
we get into, they wonder why the public doesn't trust their actions. And then this is a clear example of that, because a lot of people, when we figured out, okay, this thing can see 15 times further than the Hubble telescope, then we would assume naturally, okay, if we were to direct that James Webb telescope towards something in our solar system, we should have detailed information from the surface of said planet. And then that just then you have but they leave that door open for you to start going down conspiracy roads,
Mhm.
because it's like, okay, yeah, you should be able to see the surface of Pluto or one of these other planets with fine detail. Now, have you done that and you're seeing things now at this point? Are you
Mhm.
now seeing things that are traveling through space that potentially could lead into that city-sized spacecraft being a real thing? It would make
Yeah.
sense because we know they're visiting here.
Sure.
So we know James Webb has probably one of the best chances of catching something en route to the planet Earth, or just traversing space going somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. I guess maybe why they do that is because then they don't ever have to answer the question. It could always be a question mark, and they could leave it right where it's at for people to sit and just ponder over for the next 50, 60, 80 years. And it's just a sad state of affairs if that's the plan, if that's actually what they're doing.
Yeah, no doubt. And they plant the seed and let it grow whichever way it's going to grow, right? And you're right. They just sit back and watch it all happen, and they can keep it in. I'm also wondering too if that weird, just the way my brain works, it was like they put it up there and they started dialing stuff in and checking stuff out, and they were like, holy cow, this is way better than we ever thought it was going to be. And now they're, instead of reaching whatever, just a number, 100 feet, now you can see 1,000 feet. And it's like, oh yeah. And yeah, maybe there's so much stuff, so much information out there, it's just overload for them, and it's just easier to go, yeah, no, there's nothing new going on here, no, don't worry about it, haven't seen that before.
Yeah, yeah, and then where they positioned it, right? Because
Mhm.
it's in that, I forgot the name of the zone,
Yeah, me
the
too.
the zone on the other side of the moon where the gravitational pull keeps it in one stationary spot.
Great.
But they're seeing the dark side of the moon also then from there, and they're
Mhm.
also seeing just a bunch of other places that we have not previously had access into. Maybe even the next star system. Forgot which. There's one that's like 4 light years away.
Yeah.
Uh, Andromeda is one of those
Mhm.
that's 4 years lights. So I'm assuming they could see into that solar system as well. And it's like, okay, you got to be picking up on something. We know there's life out there.
Yeah.
So it almost says, by having this happen in this discussion, it almost says they have found something, but
Mhm.
they just aren't going to tell us. And
No.
then that's where the question goes. But we're going to get ready to go into break right here and come back with Tim James with the UFO report, because it's getting spicy. They're finding stuff out there in space and they're not telling us what's new, right? What's new? What's new? You guys don't go anywhere. Stick around. We'll be right back with more of the UFO Report with Tim James. Then we'll get into a few weird stories of the week. You guys don't go anywhere. Stay tuned right here on Spaced Out Radio. All right, clear. We're awesome. Doing good. Yeah, Tim. Man, that's bananas, man. This is what you're bringing us first. This is bananas. But
Sorry.
I've been waiting for, because James Webb, just like I said, it should be something that could see the face of a dime on Mars, you would think, based off what they said. So and it's got to be true, because they're seeing so much further and deeper into the solar system that is just unimaginable. They can't see something closer with way greater detail.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm speculating. Obviously, I think that they've opened up their own can of worms and gone like, oh no, what have we done? Right? It's you're right, because there's no way that they're not seeing stuff out there. Like, there's no way. It'd have to be impossible. And I think that I read somewhere that you can there is a live feed from the telescope, or they send stills from the telescope or something that you can look at, but I don't know what you're going to be looking at.
You're going to be looking at things that have been scrubbed and things that have been already run through the process. I mean, live feed, right? Come on, man. They've never given us a live feed of anything. And that's the game that they play. And that's the thing. It's like, you want to look at the powers that be as having your best interest at heart, but then when they do things that are blatantly against that, just trickery, essentially, and it's like, why do we keep putting the faith into these systems and these people who obviously want to lie right to our face, or don't want to fill us in on all the information? It boggles my mind, because some people spend a lot of time focusing on these entities, these government departments, and they spend so much time doing that. And it's like Lucy in the football. It's the same thing every time. What are we doing? And like Derek Galloway says, they are protecting humanity, and they could be
sure.
keeping something that protecting us from a truth that would probably break us down to the core. That's possible.
Sure.
But guess what? I want to know before they get here. I want to know before that massive ship arrives, if it's on the way. I want to know before the asteroid is about to impact. I want to know all these things where I get to make a decision for my life to say, hey, I'm going underground, or I'm just going to sit here and wait it out. I should be able to make that choice for myself.
Yeah, you should. Yep. Oh yeah. And the definition of insanity, right? Keep doing the same thing over and over again and hope for a different result. But
I used to always think, in my younger years, I would, I've always been a person that hung around older people, and for the knowledge, first of all, but
sure.
It would be a recurring theme that when, people who are up in age would be like, man, I'm just tired of this. I'm just ready to go to that next stage, and I'm just done with this, right? And as a young person, you don't understand that, but then as you get older and you see the games and you see the recurring things that happen over and over again, like the Lucy football thing, then it makes sense to you why people would feel like that. Like, you know what? I'm just done with the trickery and the games and the silly stuff. I'm not going to be able to stop it. So let me go to the next plane of existence now.
Yeah.
And deal with that, something new.
Yeah. It's a retirement from that part of their life, right?
It's heavy. It is heavy. It is deep. And well, that's why we have to break that. And that's why it's so important what we're doing now, because we have a chance to break that chain and kind of get some progression for people who are still living now,
Yeah.
I mean? It makes me sick, Tim. It makes me sick.
Getting old Robbie G wound up.
Yeah. That's why I say, Dave said, do a Rob 101. I'm like, you know what? That's not a bad idea, because I got some stuff I can rant about. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got about 30 seconds. Oh, and this Tim, so I'm gonna we'll end it at about 47 after. That way I can run that weird news segment.
Done. So I won't run anything too major here. What are we looking at? About 10 minutes? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All
right.
All right, here we go. Oh, nope, that was a false alarm. 25 seconds.
It's all good. It's all good.
I'm looking at the clock.
I did that with Dave about a week ago when I overwent. I didn't see the signal. I'm like, oh, geez, I'm talking over the music.
Yeah. So I'm trying to perfect this as well.
For sure.
On the fly. Here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour 2.5. Once again, on the back half of the show, we got our guy, UFO Tim James, in the building here, giving us the news. And we still will be jumping into some weird news because there's some weird stuff going on out there I'll talk to you about. But space travelers, consider taking the next step and join the club. That's right. You can join our Space Out Radio Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 per month. Now, we'll get back into the UFO news with Tim James here. Tim, so yeah, we've had our rant here already for the first few minutes. What else do we have going on? Anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, something kind of cool. I saw this the end of last week, and I thought this was pretty good actually. So we've been talking different conversations about getting the ball rolling. As long as people are talking, it doesn't matter who it is. So, and I found this, and I found it quite interesting. So, police chiefs group released a guidebook on how officers should report UFOs. So, an 11-page guide from the Major City Chiefs Association provides a framework for officers on how to handle reports on UFOs. So, the Police Chiefs Organization has just published its first guide instructing officers how to report incidents involving UFOs. And it was it's 11 pages or something like that. They're happening, whether you believe, this is a quote from the officer. Sorry, they are happening, whether you believe it in what the origin of them is or not. They're happening. And it's important that we are able to report, said Johnny Jennings. He's the chief of the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department. The 11-page guide was put together by the Major Cities Chief Association, and it provides the framework for how to handle these unique encounters. The book's goal is to bring awareness to the phenomenon and to normalize them so that the officers take the reports seriously. I was like, well, that'd be a good thing. It's important to make sure we're tracking these incidents, said Jennings. He added that the Charlotte area doesn't really receive many UFO reports, and he hasn't had any of his own encounters with them. But they do happen around the country, obviously. In June of 2023, a Las Vegas police dashboard camera captured an unexplained blue streak flying across the sky. About an hour before a 911 call reported aliens in a residential backyard. We just want to make sure that they're reporting properly and that everything is being taken seriously. So I'm like, okay. So I looked it up, and it's online. You can actually find it. It's the reference guide, and it was posted, I guess, in June of 2024. And there's chapters and sections: UAP in the news, law enforcement considerations, U.S. government UAP programs, whistleblowers. Like, it goes on and on and on and on. And it's quite well done, actually. Law enforcement considerations, the potentially ambiguous presence of UFOs defines the national security implications and drives the broad range of stakeholders and demand for rigorous scientific understanding of intelligence on phenomena. And that was a quote from Arrow, right? But I found that. I was like, okay, cool. And it's got like where the meetings are. Like, it's a whole directory. So I'll throw that up on the chat, and if anybody wants to have a look at it. And then it's got a little bit of a history thing about the U.S. government and their programs, so the police know, or whatever, know what's going on from the 40s all the way to present day. Describes what the whistleblowers are, who they are, where they are, what they're known for. It's a full document on who's who in the zoo, and I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's been sent out nationwide, and police officers will be picking it up at their local bullpens, I guess.
Yeah, awesome stuff. I saw that as well when
Mhm.
they came out and talked about that. But, you know, just starting here, there was a guidebook that had been out for pilots for many, many years, and
Mhm.
they had avenues to report, but the stigma stopped them from doing so.
Yeah.
It's just internal pressures to not report. So you would have to wonder, even though things are more out in the open nowadays, you
Mhm.
have to wonder how much of the stigma still exists. None of us will know unless we're on the inside. But I can tell you, I interviewed, filling in for Dave one night. I interviewed a lady and a gentleman from a organization called UAPPD. They were both former police officers,
Mhm.
and they were actually putting together some sort of way for police officers to have somewhere to come and report. So the book is a nice gesture,
Yeah.
but I think it's going to have to be organizations like the UAPPD where officers are going to feel comfortable to be maybe anonymous in a lot of cases, but be able to come and deliver the information. Is one thing that I do know is that, just like you mentioned with the Las Vegas incident, they caught the I don't know, UFO or
Yeah.
just maybe a shooting star on camera. But the point is that those dash cameras capture a lot of stuff
Yeah.
during the night. Not that wasn't the first time shooting star has been caught on dash cam. I think the asteroid event in Russia 2013
Mhm.
caught on police dash cam as well.
Yeah.
So they're running 24/7. There's probably a wealth of information that they have just from the dash cams,
Oh
but
yeah.
then there's been listed experiences where police officers on a night shift have said things like, I think in New York, they had witnessed an abduction taking place in the
Mhm.
moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they're a wealth of information, but it's about who on the inside is going to allow them to actually come out and talk about that stuff.
Yeah, you're totally bang on. I mean, both my in-laws are passed away now, but both of them were Vancouver City cops. My mother-in-law was a detective, and my father-in-law was a beat cop down on the east side. He was a sergeant, and some of the stories that they talked about, well, not so much the mother or my mother-in-law, but my father-in-law. Yeah, they used to get reports and stuff like that, and of course some of them were just down on the downtown east side, and there's a lot of people that are doing things they shouldn't be doing, and I'm seeing a bunch of stuff. But when they get called, like he said, you get called to a legitimate complaint where somebody had seen something going on, and he says, and you get to the location, and yeah, it looks like something's been going on, but to report it back to head office and then file it, and then, like you said, if you did that within the next 24 hours, you'd have aliens posted on the inside of your locker. Like he says, it was ridicule. And sometimes he says, he felt that some of the stuff was legit, like really legit. And he goes, but what am I supposed to say to anybody? First of all, I reported it, I get ridiculed. And then second of all, nothing ever happens with it. Right. So hard on them.
Yeah, and then yeah, exactly. Nothing ever happened. So then, okay, you reported the first few things, but then you're like, well, this isn't going to go anywhere, or I'm going to have to keep dealing with this, so I just won't do it anymore. And
Hmm.
then so that handbook only applies then to newbies on the force who are not used to dealing with the stigma and the ridicule, and then once they get the taste of it, they're going to stop reporting too.
Yeah.
So it's a good gesture. I like that it's there, but at the same time, there's always going to be from that inside power, because whether you look at it or not, the police force is technically an arm of the government,
Yeah.
and so that tree goes all the way up to the what they call the cabal of the people who don't want the story to get out. So I'm sure they have influence all the way down the line, and they
Sure.
can make it rough for you if they want to. But I do think it's a good thing. In a perfect example, right? So the Miami Mall thing, I
Hmm.
don't know if you heard about that. I don't know how to feel about that, but I
No.
know 200 officers were supposed to be there, and I think someone was looking in to get their body camera footage, and they were having a hard time doing that. So once again, okay, maybe they did see something, maybe cameras picked up something that was
Sure.
anomalous, but how do we get access to those to that footage.
Yeah, right. That freedom of information. Yeah, they'll give it all to you.
And John Greenwald, just look at John Greenwald. He's been flat out denied some things. And I know of others who have just literally been denied the request. And then there's things they don't tell you. Like with my sighting, I was still young in this, and I figured out down the road, okay, maybe I should check with the FAA and see about some of the radar data there. They don't tell you. You don't have the open information to tell you that you need to do that within 45 days of that sighting. So for shout out to anyone out there, if you have a sighting in the sky, you need to get with the FAA and FOIA that information within 45 days, because they purge it after that, and you will never get your hands on it. So just information that isn't out there, and then the bare walls and hurdles that are still in place. Let's remove those hurdles and those walls, and then have real transparency into what's going on. Because why not? Then it goes back to the James Webb Telescope, because they don't want you to know what they're seeing for whatever reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the world of UFOs, right?
Yeah, Tim, man, I do appreciate you coming on in. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the UFO report and then jump into some UFO weird news. Thank you for coming in. Pleasure always talking to you. And we're going to do this again, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost jumped in with you the other night, but I was too tired.
Anytime you see me on here, you can jump in at any moment. All right, Rob. Have a good one.
Good night, everybody.
All right. Tim James with the UFO report. Love it. We're going to go ahead and keep the show moving here. We have some UFO weird news. I know last time it was actually the weird and nasty news, if you recall. This is going to be a little bit different tonight. I think these ones should pass the test, and we're going to go ahead and get right into that right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. But I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, the UFO and weird news of the week. So there's a few different stories that we went ahead and picked up tonight, and we're going to jump into the first one here. This one is man who heard haunted painting crying and moaning explains why he refuses to sell it. So just off that title there, a painting that's literally crying and moaning. I don't know why you want to hold on to something like that, but we're going to find out why this gentleman refuses to sell this painting. And it says, this is courtesy of Brenna Cooper, who wrote this story here. The disturbing artwork belongs to Sean Robinson. Now, the owner of a haunted painting, which is said to have been heard crying and moaning, has explained the reason why he refuses to sell it. Now, you may be confused by the idea of a portrait which is able to cry and moan, which is fair enough, but this isn't any ordinary painting. Take a look at it below. And just for the radio audience, it's this grotesque looking thing with the open mouth, almost like the famous painting with the scary face guy with the hands on his face. I don't know what that one's called. I'm sure you guys know. But the painting isn't something that you would hang in your living room. Titled The Anguished Man, the creepy picture features the face of a man in extreme distress, mouth wide open, eyes which appear to be black holes threatening to swallow you whole, an uneasy feeling from looking at the image. While the painting itself may not be the most disturbing thing you've ever laid your eyes on, the story behind it certainly is. The creator of The Anguished Man is unknown. However, its current owner, Sean Robinson, claims that he inherited the piece from his grandmother, who in turn told him the original painter had mixed his own blood into the portrait before taking his own life, which definitely increases the creepy factor. Cumbria native Robinson would later go on to share videos of the painting on his YouTube channel explaining that he had encountered paranormal activity after the artwork came into his possession. He says, quote, "I am a believer now. There is definitely something wrong with that painting. The fact that he used his own blood," he explained. Quote, "It might be that it was some sort of ritual. I believe it may be a self-portrait." He then went into further detail about the painting, explaining that he heard crying and moaning in his house, as well as seeing the, quote, "figure of a man lurking in the shadows." Quote, "I have witnessed a lot. Noises are the first thing. At first, we didn't relate them to the painting, but it became obvious they only started when we brought the painting into the house," he added. Now, if you're wondering why on earth Robinson hasn't tried to get rid of the unsettling heirloom, it turns out he's not interested in parting with the object. Back in 2015, the painting was erroneously believed to be available to purchase on eBay for a tidy 1,500 euros. However, Robinson would soon set the record straight. Confirming to Dread Central that he had no desire to sell the object, Robinson said, "Unfortunately, and to disappoint all the collectors of haunted items and all the horror fans looking for the best Christmas present ever, we have to let you down by telling you that the painting is locked away in a secure place and it is not for sale." He continued, "All other paintings appearing for sale online, which claim to be the Anguished Man, are frauds, and no one should buy those. I can guarantee you that the original painting is locked away in a secure location, and I have no intentions on selling it. That could be dangerous, and it would not be wise for anyone to lay their hands on the painting because it is really active, and really strange things happen for people who are in the same room or even in the same house with the painting. This may not be the last we see of the Anguished Man, as it was rumored in 2016 that the rights to the painting's story had been sold to a film company. However, there are yet to be any further updates on the project." Wow. Creepy story. You got to go look up the painting of this The Anguished Man is where you'll find it online, and you'll see that this is definitely a creepy painting. And if it wasn't making noises, I still wouldn't put it up on the wall. Why would you do something like that? All right, so getting into the next story here. We have why two people are buried in graves under a runway at an airport, which doesn't make sense, but I guess we'll find out why. This is by Joshua Nair article, and the couple's graves have been left there for one particular reason. It says, if you're strapped in and looking out the window on a plane about to jet off to a dream holiday destination, the last thing that'll cross your mind is what's beneath the runway surface. It's a very specific thought, but one airport differs from all others when it comes to their tarmac, as there's actually an element of history to it which they have commemorated. Well, if you find yourself at Savannah Hilton Head Airport in Georgia, USA, on your travels, keep an eye out for a specific detail when you touch down on the runway. There are two rectangular shapes side by side for an oddly specific reason. At the edge of runway 10 and 28, there are two graves. Just off to the side, there are two more. But why is this? Long before airports were even a thought, the land used here belonged to a couple named Catherine and Richard Dodson, who would farm on the land known as Cherokee Hills. Both born in 1779, they were together for 50 years of marriage before Catherine's passing in 1877, while Richard followed in 1884. As with customs of the times, the 19th century couple were buried on their land next to one another. That slab of area was actually the family cemetery on their farm, which held around 100 graves, which unfortunately also included the graves of slaves. The markers on the tarmac at the airport are the grave sites for Catherine and Richard and are over 150 years old. After the couple passed and World War II was on the verge of happening, the military at the time were in need of a place to land as B-24 Liberators and B-17 Flying Fortresses. However, that place was right on top of the cemetery, which meant they had to move almost all of the graves to Bonaventure Cemetery, but not the Dotsons. This is because their descendants wouldn't consent to their graves being moved and believed that Catherine and Richard would want to stay put on the land that they had put so much hard work into for decades. So there was no choice left but to have the area paved over their graves so that a runway could be set up. Though they did put markers on the graves as a sign of respect to those buried beneath its surface. But they aren't the only graves at the airport. As its website confirms, that two more graves of Dotson relatives, Daniel Houston and John Dotson, are nearby in the brush near the airport's most active runway. So there you go. A little bit of history to get you through your day. That is where we'll end the story, but I do want to talk about that, right? This is in Georgia. So I would assume, and maybe somebody will do this after the show, or if you're out there in Radio Land, maybe you'll go online and take a look at this. But it said that you should be able to see two rectangular shapes side by side right around at the edge of runway 10 and 28. There are two graves, and just off to the side there are two more. So maybe you'll be able to Google map this or do it like a Google Sky View and kind of confirm this story here. But that's pretty weird. That definitely counts as a weird story of the week. I would have never known. A lot of you maybe have flown into this airport. If you've flown into the Savannah Hilton Head Airport in Georgia. But if you haven't, next time you actually go, make sure that you keep an eye out for this, because I think that's pretty creepy and weird, right? Yeah. So with that being said, this is America, Kevin says. I got you there. And let's see, what else do we have? Okay, we're looking good. So with that being said, that's it for the news tonight. Filling in for Dave Scott. Always a pleasure. Oh, I do want to say this. Tonight is my 1-year anniversary here at Spaced Out Radio. So it has been a pleasure, and actually stars aligned for me to be here on the 1-year anniversary of the day I started the After Hours. And you see where it's come this far. I'm proud of what has been done, and I'm glad that I could be here to do this for you guys. And we're going to keep this thing going. It's just like we're first starting. I'm pumped up and energized to go another year. And then who knows, maybe another year. But the whole thing is we will always have conversations here that move the needle because they have to be had. We're going to continue doing that for the foreseeable future. So thanks for being here with me, guys. It has been a pleasure. We want to thank our super chatters for the night, which have been Carl Bittner, Mike Bothwell, Richard Minnick, and also T-Bone. Thanks so much for your awesome support of Spaced Out Radio. And thank you for supporting me at the end of the day. We also want to thank this guy you're listening to right now, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. He's the man rocking us out of each and every weekend, reminding us to what? Never say never again. Because yes, the phenomena is real, and anything and everything is possible. So show some of your love tonight. Throw your horns up. As we also want to thank our viewers online and listeners on terrestrial radio and digital platforms all around the world, whenever and wherever in the world you may be listening from. We appreciate you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, you ask? We own the night. Remember, this show is copyrighted Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media Ventures Limited. It's been a pleasure serving you once again as your host for the first year and the foreseeable future. I'm Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers out there, this is not a goodbye nor farewell. You know, as we go off air for the night, we will see you next time. Much love. Take care. Thank you for all the accolades. Thank you for showing up here for the past year. We're going to make it even better, even more special. We're out of here. Take care. All right, we are clear. We are clear. Thank you, everybody, for your support and your love. It's been a year that fast. Time just flies by, right? Flies by when you're having fun. And, I'm just really proud of where After Hours has now come. It's a very comfortable place for me now. And I really hope that we created something that you guys can appreciate, giving it After Hours its own identity, which I feel like it has at this point, and its own direction as far as the type of things that we do here. And it has been a pleasure being your host for the last year. And I'm looking forward to so many more shows here in the future, guys. Let's keep moving the needle. Outside of that, you guys have a great rest of your night. Dave Scott should be back tomorrow. We'll see. Outside of that, though, take care. Much love. See you next time.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.